off with, are there any disclosures of conflict of interest? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask that each department head come up to the podium in order outlined on the agenda. Each department will provide a presentation. We'll go through the budget booklet page by page, and council will be provided the opportunity to ask questions of staff. And without any further ado, we'll get going. Budget discussion, we'll start with pages 81 to 86 with the Economic Development Officer, Len Magyar.
Thanks for setting that up for me, Jay. So I'm here again, it's been a number of years now, to present the revenue budget for the Economic Development Department. So in terms of our objectives, I think most of council is pretty much aware of what we do: business attraction, business retention, external marketing in the community. But probably the biggest thing this year is there's been some changes in our Small Business Enterprise Center, which Ramona Gallagher, the manager, will speak to. And also you have some changes in terms of physician recruitment, which has come under our department as well. So in terms of our office and where we fit, basically, as council is aware, we report through the CAO to council, and underneath is in the various boxes are the various things that we're generally in charge of: business retention, business attraction, small business assistance through the Enterprise Center. And then, as my development officer says, other stuff. So any other kind of land-related things that typically the municipality deals with. So that can be leasing of properties, selling of properties that the municipality has taken back, etc. So this slide talks a little bit to where our marketing plan is in terms of what we do, particularly for investment attraction. So again, Mr. Hammond has provided this slide, and it really talks about the partnerships. So our municipality partners with a number of different groups to extend our reach in terms of our international marketing. And the reason we've used the nesting dolls is because the partnerships might sound a little confusing, but they do all fit together in pieces. So as council is aware, Woodstock is a member of the Southwestern Ontario Marketing Alliance, which is a regional marketing group which has been around for about 15 years now. And that group predominantly does international marketing, of which Woodstock is a partner, and we participate in various events. But then through SOMA, we belong to the Ontario Food Cluster, which is a much larger group of municipalities, the Ontario Manufacturing Communities Alliance, which again is a larger group of municipalities, and the Ontario Real Estate Alliance as well. And then also on the left-hand side, we can look at the Oxford Connection. So that's generally the development departments within the county. So that's Ingersoll, Tillsonburg, Woodstock, and the Rural Oxford Economic Development Group working together. So generally we do about 17 trade events annually. We usually generate somewhere in the range of 400 leads or contacts for our specific department. And because of those partnerships, particularly say for SOMA, we put $30,000 a year into the budget for SOMA, and we can leverage about $700,000 in marketing dollars. So in terms of achieve goals for 2018, I won't bore you with all the details other than to say we had a banner year in terms of land sales, land activity, expansions, that sort of thing. But also we attended a number of shows, again, partly on our own in terms of the Oxford Connection Group, but also with the SOMA Group, but also through some of those other groups that I mentioned before, the Manufacturing Communities Alliance, et cetera. And part of this is really kind of building relationships. So there's certain things that we belong to that we attend on a regular basis because we want the Woodstock name to be out there in one form or another. So the Ontario Auto Mayors is a good example where we attend as a member municipality because we have an assembly plant in our community. So they talk about various auto issues, what's happening with auto investment, what's impacting auto investment, that sort of thing. So we want to make sure that we're out there and visible. We've maintained our ties with Japanese and German Canadian Chambers of Commerce. And the reason we do this is because this is where a lot of leads for investment come from. So for instance, a few years ago, when Dr. Urker was looking for a site, that lead actually came through the German Canadian Chamber and came from a SOMA meeting that we were in attendance at. So we were able to get in on that investment early on. We administer the community improvement plan, and the one I really like to point out is we sold roughly $2.5 million, $2.451 million in industrial land sales in 2018. And a number of those sales have been at Bisham Park, also our Commerce Way Business Park. Some of the sales we'll mention is ViewCon and Ontario Refrigerated Services, who are now constructing their second building on those lands, actually. And we closed a total of about 27 acres of industrial land sales, which for us is a very good year. If you look at us historically, 15 acres a year would have been a pretty good year for us, but we're certainly moving along at a much quicker pace than that. So very happy with that, and we expect that things will continue very well into 2019. In terms of business attraction or business retention, working with local companies, we do a number of company visits where we visit them to see what kind of issues they're facing, what impediments there might be in terms of their expansion plans, et cetera. And then also, for instance, we also worked with Firestone to do a job fair to help their employees. So that's obviously good for residents of the community who are working at Firestone, or we're working at Firestone, but it's also good for the new companies that have come here, because one of the big issues at the moment is a lack of available talent. So projects for 2019, again, ongoing commitments with our various trade groups. I'll talk a little bit about the physician recruitment plan shortly, but continuing to work on the CIP program for our downtown, ongoing industrial land sales, et cetera. Also, our SOMA group will be planning its Asia mission, so we're looking at going to Asia again in November. A large part of that will predominantly be in Japan, where, of course, Woodstock's been very fortunate to have a lot of Japanese investment come to our community. So we spend a lot of time there with those companies looking for follow-on investment. And one of our big things that we're also looking at is acquiring additional industrial land in 2019. So in terms of the budget, not a lot really changes in our budget from year to year. But the one thing I can speak to is we've asked the county through our Oxford Connection Group, we've asked them for an additional $5,000 this year. So we're looking at a number of trade shows. Actually, we're looking at the CL Food Show in Toronto, the Western Manufacturing Technology Show, Canadian Manufacturing Technology Show, and the Automotive Parts Manufacturing Association Convention in Windsor. So we also have to update some of our marketing materials and our trade show booth as well. Other accounts, the first line is what I call the 0368 and 0369 accounts. So if you go back in history, the 0368 account was trade shows and travel. Now what we've done is we've broken out 368 and 369. So 369 are effectively the trade shows that we're looking at going to Woodstock as part of SOMA. So it's a little more transparent. The number really hasn't changed. Actually, I looked at the 2012 budget for the 368 account, which combines the two, was about $27,000. So it doesn't change very much. But what we are finding is that the cost of our accommodation in particular is getting excessively expensive. And then on the 370 account, big change there because we're bringing the economic development website under the city as a microsite. So some significant cost savings for our department, significant cost savings. And then this one is basically looking at our industrial land sales. So we're looking at a significant increase in land sales. This is based on some of the companies that we're already talking to. So there's a couple of things that are happening that's pushing that up. And of course, that's a good thing if we sell more land. But what's happening is the number of inquiries, of course, still continues to be very strong. The number of sales that we're looking at is at a higher price than we've typically received in the past. And the other thing that we're getting is we're getting more inquiries from what I would call mid-size site ranges, so some that are in the 8 to 10 acre range. So those bring with them some fairly significant dollars for us. And that's the end. I don't know if there's any questions.
Thank you. Any questions before we get to line by line? So in general for Mr. Magyar from council. Okay, seeing none, we'll start with page 81. Any questions on page 81? Councillor Schattenberg?
Yeah, through Acting Mayor Jerry Accioni to Mr. Magyar. I noticed in line number, actually it's right at the very bottom, page number 81, it said that the budget for 2018 for trade shows and travel was just over 30,000 and just over 26 was spent. But this year, or for 2019, the budget's 14,350. Has that been split up differently, or why is it so much lower?
Oh, Through Acting Mayor Accioni to Councillor Schadenberg, that's exactly what's happened. So what you're seeing is you're seeing the split between 368, the way it has historically been, and now the split between 368 and 369. Again, a little more transparent in terms of councils having the ability to see entirety what SOMA's commitments are from this municipality.
Any other questions for page 81? Councillor Fraser?
Thank you, Your Acting Worship, through to Mr. Vega. Your advertising on 0315. So last year it looks like you went over budget a bit, but you haven't budgeted that much, only $300 more for 2019. Is that purposed?
Yes. Acting Mayor Accioni through to Councillor Fraser. In terms of our advertising, there really hasn't been typically big increases over the last few years. A lot of that has to do with the fact we've moved more into digital advertising. So the good thing about digital advertising is it's much more cost effective. So we're actually able to do more advertising and have a further reach for slightly more than what we were traditionally spending in largely print advertising. And in terms of our overall budget for advertising, obviously at one time it was 100% of our budget was print advertising, but I would hazard a guess and say probably less than 25% of that now is print advertising.
Okay, any more questions on page 81? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to pages 82 and 83. Councillor Fraser?
Once again, Acting Mayor Accioni through to Mr. Vega. The physician recruitment, we're in it for $50,000 from last year's budget. Didn't spend much because you just got the person on board in December. But are we holding the whole salary for that person, or are we sharing that with somebody? And is that just salary, or is that for advertising? It's just a one catch-all line for the person and what they're doing.
Again, through the acting mayor, this essentially is the cost for wages. So the next portion of my presentation really deals with the plan going forward. So you'll see that the plan going forward adds about $70,000 to that. So if you're going to have a person, they need to have some sort of marketing campaign. But this $50,000 was the person was hired later in the year. So this is all of our expenses. And the way she bills this is based on hours. So it's not like we're paying her a weekly stipend or anything along those lines. It's based on actual work that she does.
Okay, thank you. I'll be patient for the next part.
Councillor Lauder?
Yes, through the acting mayor to Len. On the 10317 industrial signage, it's gone up an extra $19,000. What's that for?
Through the acting mayor to Councillor Lauder, our intention is to do a little more in terms of signage specifically at business parks. So I think council is aware in terms of the Tramster lands that we've taken on, we are looking at some potential signage as a signpost for the business park. So we don't have any specifics yet, but we have bumped that budget in the event that we do that project.
Councillor Schadenberg?
Through acting mayor Accioni to Len Magyar one more time. The rental income from industrial land was budgeted for $15,000, and you received for revenue $54,000 in 2018, but you're back to $15,000 as a budget revenue for 2019. Would that be farmland that's been sort of used, future industrial land that the city owns?
Through acting mayor to Councillor Schadenberg, that's essentially correct. So what's happened is we budget on a per acre basis, so we get a certain number of dollars per acre when we rent land. And when we did our projections last year, we thought that certain lands would not be available for rent. But as we all know, projects of some size take some time. So in some cases, we're able to extend that season and get additional dollars. So that's what's happened. But we're looking this year again at less land to actually rent out, which again is a good thing because we've actually sold the land for development.
Any other questions for page 81 or 80, or sorry, yeah, I guess 81 to 83 so far? Okay, seeing none, pages 84, which I guess is a lot of small business center, to 85, we have a presentation. Yeah, I'm going to assume we have a different presentation for that.
Sorry, through to council. I can do the doctor recruitment presentation at this point if that's council's purview. Okay.
Yeah, please do. Thank you. We'll let you sit down after that, if you like,
All right.
when we're done with you.
So we've talked a little bit about physician recruitment. So of course, this is something that seems to be very near and dear to a lot of residents in our community that are having some challenges finding a doctor. So in terms of Christie's plan, you can see her vision there, which is to make sure that all residents of Woodstock have a family physician. And then, of course, the objective is to recruit and retain family physicians into our community. So in terms of program going forward, so this gets to Councillor Fraser's questions in terms of the plan. So again, we have a person in place. Now we need to provide them with the opportunity to actually do the job. So what's being presented is basically just over $70,000 in terms of program. A lot of it related to doing various trade events where you have young physicians or physicians who may be looking to relocate. Some advertising, marketing, that sort of thing in terms of specific programs. And then below we talk a little bit about reserve for programs. So one of the things that we're encountering when I guess physicians are looking at various communities is a number of communities have programs that provide some type of incentive for physicians. In some cases it's reduced rents, in some cases it's direct grants or paying for certain things, that sort of thing. So it's something we need to do a little bit of more investigating, but it's something we expect that if we're going to be in the game, we probably need to look at doing something similar to other communities. So in terms of the work plan, again, as I mentioned, a lot of it is really marketing related, so visiting physician conferences. In fact, Christie's away this evening actually in Montreal. So it's really getting in front of the medical community to talk about our community, the options of being here, the opportunities of being here, and really making a pitch that it's a great place for them to come, obviously to practice, but also to raise a family. So it's kind of a twofold pitch that we're really talking about lifestyle and, of course, career opportunity. So spends a lot of time meeting with medical residents, locums, so those are people who are filling in for doctors who are off, let's say they're on vacation or some other thing that they're doing, but also filling in at hospital, that sort of thing, when there's a desperate need for additional staff. So I think part of the theory there is once they're here, they've seen the community, it's a good chance to get out there and talk to them about if you're going to practice in the future, then obviously Woodstock should make some sense. And you're already a leg up. Once they've been here, they have an opportunity to see what the community is about. So, and then of course, continued liaison with community health stakeholders. There'll be continued discussions with the hospital, et cetera, because of course they're a critical component in terms of our ability to attract medical staff. So one of the other things we're looking at doing is a recruitment website, which again talks about not just the medical opportunities here, but also, again, what makes Woodstock a great place to live, work, and play, sort of thing. And then working with Schulich, which again is access to potential doctors that is our target market for what we're looking for. So in terms of doctor recruitment, has been identified by our residents as being a high priority for the community, and we don't take that very lightly, which is why we're putting a lot of emphasis and a lot of faith in Christie to get the job and help our community out. So I don't know if there's any other questions.
Any other questions, council? Councillor Fraser.
Just one, Acting Mayor Accioni to Mayor Lynn. Can you go back to that slide presentation? There, on the one where they were going to attend, there is a abbreviation, an acronym. Go there, right there, the very bottom one, CASPR. Do you know what that is? I was trying to translate it, but I was having trouble. If you don't, that's okay. We can get that one later.
Yeah, it's Canadian Association. I'm not sure what the S stands for, but it's staff physician recruitment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not trying to be difficult, but
Yeah. You know, it's funny when I was looking at this, I realized that's probably the one thing that council's going to ask that I don't know 100%.
Any other questions of council concerning that presentation? Okay, seeing none, then would you like to do Ms. Gallagher planning on coming up, I assume, with Sean?
I think the plan is, yeah.
Yeah. Then we'll let you do your presentation, then we'll go line for line as well, or by page. Thank you.
I think he's pulling it up for us. So. Acting Mayor Accioni, councillors, staff, we appreciate the opportunity to present our 2019 budget for the Small Business Center. For those of you that may not recognize the fact that this is the new brand for the Small Business Center, which was formerly the Woodstock and Area Small Business Enterprise Center. We were trying to come up with a brand that made it that it was more universal for the County of Oxford and the City of Woodstock. A little bit easier for people to say and for us to be able to put on documentation. So the new branding has been going through everything that we are doing right now, and it is being used going forward.
So who are we? Who are we? We're located in downtown Woodstock, and we offer free guidance and support to startups and growing businesses throughout Oxford County. One of the misconceptions that have been out there that we're trying to dispel or eliminate is that we're only available for startup businesses, which is not entirely the case. Certainly we support startups, we support existing businesses, we support businesses that are in the process of actually winding or closing. And we're also there to deal with people who are thinking about starting up businesses, even from the concept stage. So it's really a broad spectrum approach that we're bringing to this position. So we offer walk-in resource. So as evidenced in one of the pictures, we have lots of resources up on the one wall. We do one-on-one meetings, 1 hour or more in length and frequency. We oftentimes do more than one one-on-one meeting. We have a business card display, which has been really, really great. It's been there for a while, but it hasn't been promoted. It's now being very much promoted. Various sectors, industries throughout the county, people can come in and bring their business cards. They're there. We have a lot of people just walk in and look at the business card wall, which is a great icebreaker for them to find out what it is that we're actually doing. We have monthly workshops and networking events, monthly, quarterly, and annually, so workshops and networking events. We've developed a professional referral service that Ramona's going to get into a little bit later on. And we also have a conference/boardroom that oftentimes we use, but when it's not being used, it certainly should be used. So we're making it available to clients or anyone who is looking for space. So that's, in a nutshell, who we are.
So we're going to talk a little bit about ourselves because most of you don't know who I am and what my background is coming in as the manager. I have been a small business consultant or coach for the last 15 years. I've worked with at least 6 or 7 of the small business enterprise centers throughout the province. I am myself what you call a serial entrepreneur. So I've owned my own sole proprietorship, partnership, and corporation. So a lot of what we do and a lot of what I'm trying to bring to the center is if I knew then what I know now, what would I have done differently and what I'm doing with my businesses. And that seems to be the theme in everything that we are trying to do right now. I also, from a street cred standpoint, because some people want to know if I have the paper, I also have a Bachelor of Commerce degree from McMaster University. So it sits on my wall for people who want to know that I can actually give them advice that I do have a commerce degree as well.
Most of you know who I am. That may be a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's mostly a good thing. I'm a former local business owner. It is something that has been invaluable so far in this position, and I only see it being an asset going forward. As somebody who has lived it on a day-to-day basis, from a hiring, firing, HR, payroll, keeping the lights on, keeping the door unlocked, dealing with happy clients, irate clients. I'm somebody at a grassroots level who has seen it and done it, and it hasn't been so long since I've stopped doing it. And again, my experience, my hands-on practical experience, my day-to-day operational experience is something that I'm able to assist other people with. My mistakes, my shortcomings as a business owner, the things that I've learned, my experiences, I'm able to pass on to the people coming into the center and give them some insight. And it may just be my perspective, but it's still a perspective that they didn't have before they came into the center. So when we speak about what we've done in 2018, it's important to differentiate that a lot of our funding comes from the province of Ontario, and they operate under a fiscal that runs from April the 1st to March the 31st. So we're not quite done our fiscal with the province yet. So this is what we've been able to achieve in our 2018 year relative to the fiscal that the province sets. The center was able to, through 2 grant programs that we had for 2018, able to offer 12 business grants through Starter Company Plus, where grant applicants that were selected received a $5,000 grant. We did receive 15 grants. It only shows 12 up there because 3 of them were awarded in the 2017 year. But again, that's all part and parcel to that shift in the fiscal year end of the province versus the calendar year end. Of those people that received the Starter Company grants, of the 12, 4 were located in Woodstock and 8 were located throughout various positions within the county. Our Summer Company program is for students. We had 8 student applicants. All 8 students received their grants of $3,000 to start their own summer company businesses. 3 were located in Woodstock and 5 were located throughout Oxford County. So we were thrilled, very successful. And specifically to the summer company students, all of them were very, very unique and very, very innovative. There was a lot of time and dedication that was given. So it's really refreshing to see the student side of things participate so actively and be so successful. So far as the grants going forward, again, we have no idea because we're going into a new fiscal and a new provincial government. We're not entirely sure what our grant situation is going forward for 2019, but it was important to show you what we did in the 2018 year. In that 2018 year, the center was able to achieve 458 one-on-one consultations. Those are 1-hour one-on-one consultations. As a result of those consultations, as a result of us being open and being available, 35 businesses with our assistance were started. These businesses are actual revenue generating businesses. These are not pie in the sky. These are not perceived businesses. These are actual revenue generating businesses. 2 businesses expanded as a result of our help and participation. That was with either hiring additional staff, moving into a brick and mortar location. As a whole, what this did is it created 34 full-time and 11 part-time jobs as a result of our participation. This is a breakdown of our demographic. And what I will say is that of the 458 consultations, we saw 314 clients. And I need to be clear about this because while we only saw 314, and I say only, 314 clients, the 458 consultations constitute repeat consultations. Sometimes we would have a consultation with somebody and not see them again. In other cases, we would have multiple consultations depending on how far along or how in-depth the process was. So as a result of the 314 clients that we saw, the breakdown by age is overwhelmingly 62% between the ages of 29 and 50. The other 2 sectors were represented fairly equally, being under 29 and being over the age of 50. Clients by type, Again, 54% being brand new to the center, 46 being repeat. Now, it's important to note that a very significant change took place at the center in October of 2018, in that my manager here was hired, and actually we had fewer people, by way of new clients coming in until October, and then following October, that number actually surpassed the repeat customers or clients, and that's how we got to the 54%. So that's where we started to see some real traction and a real difference. And clients based on gender, we've got 59% female to 41% male. Clients based on location within the County of Oxford or outside of Oxford, 64% are from the City of Woodstock, or their businesses are identified as being located or starting up or thinking or contemplating starting up within the City of Woodstock. And then all of the other subsequent municipalities surrounding us, and then other, which is a very small percentage. But that number is in fact growing. We have attracted, especially in the last 3 to 4 months, clients from other areas as well. Industry sector, which is quite interesting. We've got the number one sector is professional and scientific and technical. Now, as a point of clarification, within professional, scientific, and technical, we've got accounting, tax preparation, bookkeeping, architectural design, engineering services, computer design and development, social media and marketing. So again, the traditional sort of small retail, which is second, is certainly a major part of that. But again, a more professional, scientific, and technical aspect has really surged in popularity amongst people coming into the center. So that's certainly very, very exciting. And now Ramona is going to speak to what happened since she arrived in October.
So to understand the budget going forward, I'm going to give you some of the highlights of some of the things we've been able to achieve in the last 5 months. So in coming into the office, we have now created a Small Business Enterprise Center. We've created our own curriculum and training modules. We're no longer reliant on information coming from other aspect centers or from other resources. We've reduced our reliance on third-party vendors, so we are doing a lot more of our marketing and advertising in-house with tools that we have purchased to be able to do it on our own. We've developed new ministry relationships. So I've developed relationships with the Ministry of Labor, Canada Revenue Agency, Workplace Safety Insurance Board, where they are coming in and actually teaching the classes to our group of entrepreneurs. We've also, as Sean had mentioned earlier, created a professional referral network. So we have outreach to all of the business owners in the area. We have a lawyer, an accountant, a banker, an insurance person, a marketing person who have agreed to offer our clients 1-hour free consultations to be able to discuss their business in areas that far exceed what we can do in the office, where they require more professional advisement. We've done the complete center rebranding, creating a new website and newsletter format. We've increased our social media presence over 1,000% right now in terms of what we are doing. We've implemented a new customer relationship management software, so at any point in time I can tell you the number of clients that are coming in any of their demographics. We've increased accessibility and exposure of the center in terms of the outreach that we've been doing in the marketing, and this has also come from the fact that we've increased the operational hours of the center. So right now, the first and third Tuesday, we are now open till 9 p.m. because we identified that the majority of our clients are operating their businesses as side hustle, and they were taking time off work or using vacation day to come into our office. So we've increased it for Tuesday nights, and we are open one Saturday to allow people to be able to come on their free time as opposed to having to take time off. We've hired a full-time small business consultant, which is Sean. So we've upped what the qualifications and skill level are of the people who are in the office. We've hosted a networking with purpose event that was a very practical approach to networking that had 55 people at Upper Thames. We hosted the Bridges to Better Business event that had 150 people attend. And we've secured a $40,000 grant through the Ontario Business Improvement Association for Digital Main Street, which will allow us to work with Main Street businesses and help them increase their digital technology. So I will be working with the BIA in Woodstock Tilsonburg, Ingersoll, Thamesford, and Norwich to be able to get that message out to them. So how does all of this calculate to budgets? So it's in the last 5 months, just as a comparative, we've seen 205 clients. We've started 14 new businesses. We've expanded 2 businesses, and this is equated to 18 full-time and 8 part-time jobs created, which has an economic development component for the county and for the city of Woodstock. From a budgetary perspective, and I've broken this down by percentage, we received just over 50%, 53.9% of our funding comes from the province of Ontario. We receive core funding from them, just over $85,000 to operate the Small Business Enterprise Center. And then we have the Starter Company Plus program, which is just $97,000 and change, and the Summer Company program, which is $46,000. Our ask from the city of Woodstock to maintain what it is that we are doing is $91,710. From Oxford County, we did receive $50,000, the Digital Main Street grant of $40,000, and we are in the process of securing event sponsorship for our bridges and any of our events at $15,000. The second part there, I talk about the grants that are dispersed. So of that 426,410, 87 is specifically earmarked for the grants, and 40,000 is Digital Main Street. I cannot use that money for any of our operating costs, so it's very specifically targeted, which leaves $299,410 that are considered to be operations, marketing, and program delivery. Of that funding, over 65% of that is related to the salaries and benefits for Sean and myself and the office staff at $195,230. The Starter Company Plus program, the allocation for operational and marketing is $34,880. The Province of Ontario Summer Company operating budget is $22,000. Special events we have done at just over 18,000. Building utilities and maintenance, when it's all combined for 3.7% of the budget, is just over $11,000. Conference meetings and mileage is $11,000, and this includes having to travel and for receiving certifications to make sure that we are in keeping with everything that we need to be aware of, and that we have the economic development background. Advertising and subscriptions is $4,000, and the subscriptions include we are members in all of the chambers of commerce in Oxford County and any other organization where we feel there's benefit to us to have a presence. And then the final one is miscellaneous and office supplies of $3,000. So if we look at the fact that we on average see about 35 new businesses a month, we anticipate that at the end of the year, in a fiscal year, we will see approximately 420 new clients and assist them in their business startup. So we kind of look at the fact that every person that walks in our door and who we help start a business, based on our operating budget, it's a cost of $715 per business that's coming in and starting up in the county. And the other interesting thing is those numbers are just specific to consultations and walk-ins. They don't include the fact that we also offer a number of workshops and events, and the numbers in that can get up to about 2,000 or 3,000 people that will come out just to those individual events that may not actually be business operational. Thank you.
Thank you for that detailed presentation. Questions of council in general, and we'll go line by line again. Nope. Okay, questions on page 84 then, if you're willing to answer anything. Okay, I do actually myself have one. It's on full-time salaries, actually, so 0101. There's a fairly big increase there. I was wondering, is there more staff coming? Is that intentions of hiring more people?
I think it's the fact that in both our cases, the salaries that we have right now, the level of the position has been increased exponentially. So they've gone up from a level 2 to a level 3, which has resulted in the changes. So it's a job reclassification that has resulted in that for the 2 staff people right now. And then that's with the benefits and all the other,
accordingly.
it's included and encapsulated in that.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there's plans of a third or not.
There may be, but it is dependent on the provincial budget and what's coming forward. So that will be another presentation where you'll have to deal with us.
Okay, page 85. Okay, and I guess 86. I guess it's all one. Councillor Talbot.
Thank you, through the acting mayor. I have a comment. I don't have a question. I had the privilege of assisting Ramona and Sean with
Grant Review Committee, reviewing.
Yes, Grant Review Committee, thank you. And we got to see 5 different businesses come forward, and they had to do their spiel, and I have to say it was a very interesting evening. And these people were pumped, and we'll have these new businesses in our community, and so you can see that these two are working very hard and had done their job very well. So it was a pleasure to see that and to be made available to the people in the community.
Thank you.
I too have had the pleasure over the years assisting with probably a dozen of those, and very, very encouraging. So no, big supporter, no question. Any other questions for them at all before they have a seat? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will move along to the Heritage Committee. Melissa Dunham on page 103.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Dunham. I am the chair of the Woodstock Heritage Advisory Committee, and I've come to tell you a little bit about the committee and why we are asking for $10,000. It is the goal of the Heritage Advisory Committee to protect Woodstock's heritage while at the same time educating the public about Woodstock's rich history. As part of protecting our heritage, the committee maintains a heritage inventory as required under the Ontario Heritage Act. The committee maintains, the Act requires that the inventory be made available to the public, and the complete inventory can be found on the City of Woodstock website on the Heritage Advisory Committee page. The Heritage Inventory is a searchable database of buildings and landscapes in Woodstock, complete with their architectural and historical information. The main purpose of the database is to have a complete inventory of all potential culturally significant buildings and landscapes in Woodstock. To this end, the database is used by the committee to help us advise council regarding the designation and protection of Woodstock's heritage buildings and landscapes. Thus, it is a vital element in protecting and maintaining Woodstock's heritage buildings. The Heritage Advisory Committee has asked Council for $10,000 to hire a staff person to help update and expand the Woodstock's heritage inventory. Our current inventory was created in the 1990s and is in need of a little bit of updating. Last year, Council granted us $10,000 to hire a summer staff person to update the inventory. With these funds, we were able to update nearly 4,000 properties in our inventory, complete with updated historical information, architectural data, and new photos. We are very pleased with the progress we were able to make over the past summer with the funds that Council provided us, so thank you. To this end, we would like to ask Council for another $10,000 to continue the project. Similar projects have recently been undertaken by the City of Stratford and the City of Brantford. And we would hope to expand Woodstock's heritage inventory to make it more comparable to that of to the cities of Guelph, Hamilton, London, and Cambridge. So, thank you.
Questions, Council? Councillor Talbot.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Through to Melissa.
Yeah.
Right. I was on LACAC many years ago when, I guess back in the early 1990s. And we also had a heritage tree part of it. Is that part of, did that come over into your group as well too?
Heritage tree?
Within the
No.
community.
Not that I'm aware of.
Maybe we should give you more money and we get those moved over there too and put on the website, because it's
Karen
actually
shaking her head no, just so you can see that, Sandra.
okay.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, because we do have some beautiful properties within the community.
Any other questions? Councillor Louder.
Yes, through the acting mayor to Melissa. Do you know approximately how many more that you have to do, or you won't know until you get into this?
I mean, ideally, all of the properties in Woodstock would be on the inventory. Now we're just focusing on the oldest sections in the community. I mean, so yeah, I mean, the project could just keep going. Hopefully we'd be able to do another 4,000 this year, and then our goal after that would be to start working on the Heritage Registry, which is the list of designated buildings, and updating that based on the information we've collected in the inventory. So, yeah, you're welcome.
Councillor Talbot.
Sorry, Acting Mayor through to Melissa. This isn't just houses, though. This is like, this would be like businesses that have been here, say like Baird's Machines that have been here for
Yeah,
okay,
any
like that.
buildings, and even landscapes also.
Oh, okay,
So
super.
that's a new thing added to the that they're looking at now. So.
Just a more of a general comment. I was on the committee last year and learned more about Woodstock in 4 years than I did in all my life here. It's an amazing committee with amazing information, and I've had the pleasure of sitting in some presentations he's done. So for the rest of the council, it's quite interesting and maybe worth it. Up to you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much.
Okay.
This time we'll move along to the Environment Committee. Mr. Kennedy, pages 103 to 104.
Hey, thanks for having me, and thanks for your support in the past. It's been a pleasure having Mark on the committee, and our new staff representative too, Mr. Huff. So anyway, we're not asking for anything new, but to maintain the current budget. The truth is we typically only use a third or so of the budget. Our intention this year is to, if we can organize it, have a provincial environmental advisory committee sort of symposium. We're trying to do the background work to do that before we ask council's permission to go ahead with something like that. We've been to them in the past, and they were really sort of both invigorating for the members of the committee, and brought some new ideas that we could help share with our community and you guys. So we might use a little bit more of our budget than normal if we do go ahead with that, but we won't be asking for anything extra than that. Additionally, a lot of our line items are for occasional events such as the Water Festival, which is only once every 3 years in Woodstock. And we do have an amount set aside for the brick ponds continuing to develop there. Lots of good movement there right now, but we hope to support the education center there. So that's a kind of a specific line item that's been carried over for a long time. Other than that, we did get a $5,000 grant to put in a native species pollinator garden in what had been a relatively unused Donald Thompson Park section, 2 acres down there. So hoping to improve the community and the environment there. And the Seed Library is going strong still at the public library. We're going to have another event actually coming up soon, March 19th at Upper Thames Brewery. We'll be showing a brief film and having a presentation there regarding reducing waste, which is one of the county and city's big goals. So also there's beer. So look forward to seeing you all there. That's really all I have to say, unless there's any questions.
Any questions of council? Councillor Schattenberg.
Just want to compliment Chris Kennedy, and I guess really all the chairs of all the advisory committees that the City of Woodstock has. They sort of go above and beyond always for their service. And one thing that's interesting, we had a committee meeting this past Monday for the Environment Committee, and as soon as we thought the agenda was finished and we were ready for adjournment, out comes a big box of seeds and a bunch of little envelopes. And yeah, we were putting seeds in envelopes, getting ready for the library program that is ongoing at the Environment Committee. So very, I'll use the word gung-ho, but very, very committed group of people there.
Great job. Yeah, thank you. If there's no more questions of council. All right.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Chris. This time, we'll ask for the museum. Karen? Pages 68 to 70, please.
I'll also be doing the Market Center, so that would be 78 as well.
78. Thank you.
No worries. All right, so here we have the museum with our new logo as well. So we're going to be talking, of course, about the metrics at the museum. Our numbers are up slightly this year, about 5,000 more. Part of that was actually about 3% in our events. So that's everything from Family Day to our haunted house, which was a great success this year, and our escape rooms and everything else. So we're very happy with that. A kind of a surprise. We thought with Canada 150 that the numbers would be going down. Revenues, what's exciting about this is, again, with the fundraisers and the events, we're starting to see a little bit more traction with the revenues. The operation grants and the programs are about the same place. And what's wonderful is the operating grant is, of course, from the Ontario government, and that helps actually cover the cost of a lot of the museum functions that we do. The program funding actually covers for a lot of the programs that we do, and the other parts help with various parts of the museum. I just wanted to let everybody know that, of course, the museum now has a separate committee from Heritage. You will be the first full term that will be the case. These are the people who are on it. Thank you so much. They've been fabulous. We've had our first meeting. Some of the things that the committee last term and continuing now, focusing on changing out the fundraising, focusing very heavily right now on the collections and what does it mean for our collection, how do we store it, and that's been really great. And 5-year strategic plan, and we need that. CMOG stands for Community Museum Operating Grant, just so everybody knows what it stands for. I don't want to get in trouble. So this is some photos. There's a lot of visuals in this, but I'll go through them quickly. So these are some of our escape rooms that we did, very successful, and lots of people coming in. It's a really good team builder for people. This is with the youth stages program that the Little Theater does. They came in, they decorated the entire museum, and they did it about vintage sort of horror movies. So it was fabulous. The Shining, you've got Carrie in the back. Here she is about to spurt blood. Don't worry, they didn't get it anywhere. It's all good. But it was a really, really good event. The collection, I highlighted this one. This is actually from the opening of Toyota. This was actually the wrench they opened the Toyota factory with in 2008, and it's now in our permanent exhibit space. So we had about 75 artifacts come in. What's wonderful with the committee is their interaction with the objects, and a lot of times we get more information just because they know more, which is always good. That's part of why you want local people on these committees. Now, strategic plan, this is something that the province definitely wants all museums to have updated. They are fine if it's your volunteers, your committee, your staff, but to basically say what is it that you want to be doing going forward. A real priority that has been highlighted for us, and I think this is across the city, is space. Space, space, space. Everything from your collection to where are we putting staff. So basically 2018 was a year for us to basically relook at the space in the entire building. Now, we have a very interesting space in the sense that ours is designated nationally. So this beautiful grand hall, see all these walls, the floor, the ceiling, we can't touch any of it. You can't do, it is all designated, which is fabulous, but it really limits the number of things you can do in this very large space. It's basically the entire second floor of the museum. So we had been using it for temporary galleries and temporary exhibits coming in and these sorts of things, but it kind of limited what we could do. So we got creative. So what we decided, we already had these moving walls that we had. They were 10 feet high and 10 foot long, and we would put them in different, they were on wheels, and we could wheel them around for different configurations for exhibits. But we decided we're going to build walls, and all of them are going to be attached to the moving walls. We're going to attach all these moving walls together so they're not moving, brace all of their wheels, and then build actual walls on to create basically 1, 2, 3, and a little hallway here, spaces. This is a new program that we have, or updated one, Google SketchUp, and you can basically take any object, the size of it, put it in the space, and decide if it will fit or not. So this is the completed version of what the exhibit is going to look like with all the artifacts and text and where it is going to go. So first thing we did is, how do you do this? How do you build walls when you can't touch the floor? Well, you have to cover it with carpet that isn't carpet. It's not attached to anything either. It's squares with rubber on the back, and they clip all together. They're supposed to be for basketball courts. They work really well. They're very, very thin. And then you place all the walls that you have where you want them, and this is our new programming space. It's 3 times the space we had before and can hold 3 times the kids or anyone else who should like to rent it. For International Women's History Month in October, we had just over 50 people in the room, and there was enough room for walkers going down the middle and everything else. It worked just fine. And it does mean that we will have more kids actually for summer camps and all that good stuff. So we also built walls attached to the movable walls. You'll see on the floor, this is actually paper so that you didn't muck up the carpet, but everything is built right on top of the carpet. There's the actual walls, and the lighting goes right on top. This is modern lighting. Now, the thing to keep in mind, other than the lighting, all of this was done by staff. None of this was done by outside people, partly because you can't find anyone to do it. They're all too busy. Woodstock's obviously doing well, but it did mean that we had to do this ourselves. There he is. This is Adam. He's doing all the drywall. And he did the walls, and he, a summer student and our museum assistant did all of this. So we had cases that we actually bought from another museum. They had them, they were old, they repainted them, they fixed them up, replaced the glass. We bought them for about $3,000. If we'd bought them new, they would have been about $75,000. So yes, having staff who know how to do things definitely saves you money. He also constructed the centerpieces that a lot of the larger artifacts sat on so that people wouldn't run into them. We also had to make sure we made that all the aisleways fit for accessibility and all the doorways the same. Then we started setting up the actual artifacts, putting them into place, matching them up with the Google SketchUp we'd already made, and then you set out the actual artifacts. Set the lighting, make sure that everyone can see what they are, and identify them. And this is the final product. We now have the 3 galleries up in the upstairs, as well as an Aboriginal hallway as well that we showcase artifacts. And that took about 8 months to complete. But now the upstairs is an exhibit space and our permanent gallery space. So Adam, being a very detailed person, gave me all these stats. I'm just going to, if you want to read it, we can tell you. The long and the short of it is we did all of that for a budget of $40,000 and 1 staff person. So this was an enormous undertaking, and that's just the upstairs. Now we start on the main floor. So right now, that's where all of our permanent galleries are. We're going to be pulling out walls, pulling up flooring, and changing this space because we need all of this space to have double purpose. If it doesn't work. So basically what we're doing, if you start at the far left, this area is the addition that was put on in the 1990s. That is continuing to be our reception and small gift store. Where's my mouse? There's my mouse. I've lost my mouse. There we go. This space used to be education. We are going to be having some office space here, but also storage for any of the units for exhibits, because we were running out of space for people, whether it was summer students or others, to actually be working. So we will be putting a couple of desks on one side as well as the copier. This space will continue to be the exhibit space, as will this gallery. If you put these 2 galleries together, as well as this hallway here, it's almost the size, it's very, very close. It's about 1,200 square feet, and that's roughly the size of most of the larger exhibits that we get at the traveling, so they will continue to fit, and we will not have to haul them up the stairs. That will be lovely. So we're very happy about that. This space in here right now, that is our lunchroom. We're going to add this space on, creating a wall here. This gives us multiple purposes. This will be our new escape room. As well, we can also use it for programming, birthday spaces, or anything else. And that is what we've got for this floor. Now, when we were talking about all of this with the committee, what started the whole thing was actually Museum Square. We were talking about what is it going to become, what's it going to be like, and it started a conversation about what role the museum plays in that space. And that's how we got here. This is not something that is happening this year. This may never happen. But the fact is if Museum Square is ever changed, right down here below ground, you see this is already there. That is the vault for our mechanical room. It goes outside of the museum because at some point when they were talking about doing the addition in the 1990s, that was where it was supposed to go, except it didn't. They did a smaller version just with the stairs and the elevator. So right now, Parks has periodically put big rocks and other things out here, and David had to tell me, that needs to go or it's going to crash through your mechanical room. That would actually take care of this and actually have it in a proper space so that you can see what you're looking at. And this space would contain 2 wheelchair accessible bathrooms that would also be, family bathrooms. It would have a water station so people could actually fill their water bottles. It would have a janitor's closet, which we presently do not have in the building, a large lobby rather than a hallway, which we have now, our actual front desk who could monitor the public washrooms, which would be open for events that were happening in Museum Square, and basically the double doors for when we have traveling exhibits, because it's very hard to getting large components in the museum. So while we were looking at everything else, we already have Google SketchUp, so we had started conversations. So in essence, the foundations, exactly this dimension and exactly this shape, are already in the ground. It would basically be building walls and a ceiling and a roof above them. So we're putting that out into the ether, and it is something that we have started conversations about. So, also on the Market Center Theatre, just wanted to let you know that we are continuing to work with the youth theatre group, and that has gone very well. We've increased our revenues for the actual rental of that site, but there are, and we want to deal with this in 2019, a number of weekends. We identified 10 in particular that we think we could book, but we need more emphasis put on the actual rental of this space and others, which goes to the addition to our base budget, which is looking at, right now, the art gallery has a communication and facilities rental coordinator. That is part-time. We are looking for that to go full-time so that the increase would be at the museum, and basically to increase revenues from rentals across the 3 facilities, the gallery, the museum, and the market center. The museum, having the newly created education space, would also be one of the spaces that could be highlighted. So there is the increase for this year and for the full into 2020. And that's me.
Thank you. Questions of council? Councillor Fraser.
It's more of a comment, Your Worship, through to Ms. Hewson. I'm always amazed at how she thinks out of the box.
Thank you.
Very good. And
Agree as well.
Always a great presentation. Thank you.
Councillor Schattenberg.
Through the acting mayor to Karen, I noticed by the room layout for the museum for the future, the old city council chambers has been removed.
Acting mayor, through to the question, no, it's still there. We just didn't add it onto the Google SketchUp because it's not changing. It's staying precisely the way it is because it is part of the designation. I apologize. Yes, that would be confusing.
Councillor Louder.
Yes, through the acting mayor to Karen. I did go to the opening, as you know, and they've done a fabulous job, so it is a place you should check out because it's really wonderful what they've done there.
Thank you.
Space.
Looking forward to seeing it myself. Actually, Councillor Schattenberg.
I guess my second question, maybe you could put your hat on with your connections to the art gallery as well, but also the museum, Karen, is the fact that it's free admission. Has there ever been any kind of a talk, and I've probably even asked you this one-on-one previously, to have some sort of an admission charge to create some sort of an additional revenue?
Acting Mayor, through to the question. When I first arrived, there was an admission fee. It was due to the fact they'd had some large traveling exhibits that they needed to make revenue for, and it had continued on after that. And I think it was, I forget which councillor it was. Phil Poole had stated that, you know, if a lot of the people were coming to events that were already free, did it make sense to have, you know, the admission the rest of the time, and that other people got it, you know, for free on those days? And so council made a decision to simply make it free for all. What we do really encourage, though, is that it is by donation, and we get people who pay on their visas, and you know, rather than leaving us toonies. But you get a full range.
Okay, and we'll just go over page by page. We'll do 68 to 70 right off the bat then. Yeah. If there's any questions on line items? Councillor Schattenberg?
Again, through to Karen, the curator of the museum. Advertising with 2018 budget was 20,000, and year to date you'd spent 17,980 there, but you're looking to spend 25,000 in advertising. Is that to promote the improvements and changes?
Acting Mayor, through to the question, that's a couple of things. One, we got a program grant last year, and part of that was for advertising dollars, so that goes in under the budget, not under that. So that would have come under New Horizons Seniors Grant, so you'll see there is a set amount there. That was partly for advertising, but it's also the fact that if we are indeed successful in getting the rental coordinator communications, that would give them more ability to do that as well.
Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Through the acting mayor to Karen. I just noticed the museum admin full-time, the wages have gone down, and everywhere else I look through here, the wages are going up. I just wondered what the reason.
Acting Mayor, through to the question. I am not entirely sure. I think that might be partly the fact that some of my wages was supposed to come out of there, and now it coming out of the art gallery, and that is part of why I think that has changed, I believe.
Seeing nods over here, so I'm assuming.
Okay.
So. Yeah. Any other questions of council? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much. Good
Market Center? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, page 78. My apologies.
Just in case.
Just in case, yeah, you're right. I had that written down. Any questions of council? Councillor Schattenberg.
Since my kids are in the Stages program, Karen, I've been to the Market Center on a few occasions to watch kids plays and adult plays. But I noticed that the chairs in the basement area where you sort of go in intermission time, they really seem to be in need of replacement. Is there going to be a budget sometime to replace those chairs or reupholster them or something?
Acting Mayor, through to the question. No, I've got good news. You're going to be inheriting the ones from the museum, because we just got a grant to get new ones. So ours so you will be getting those. There's approximately 60 of them coming. Yes.
Again, you find ways, so hats off to you. All right, before we allow her to sit down, any more questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. This time we will move along to fire. We'll ask Acting Chief Slager to come up. Thank you. And you have 5 minutes.
Per slide?
Sorry.
Well, you're in luck. I'm in the process of losing my voice, so I'm going to keep this relatively short and we'll just stick to the numbers dealing with the budget itself there. So again, it's kind of, we don't really have to go through so much as to what we do. I think it's one of those things that's kind of out there. So we'll jump right in with the numbers if we look at it. When we look at our 2019 numbers, one of the things I do want to point out with our salaries, and it was part of the preamble that our treasurer did put through, the fire department has been without a contract since the end of 2017. So we are working on our 2017 salary wages, and just based on the increases there from change of class and such like that. So that could be upon a ratification of a contract whenever we get to that point. Those numbers will change there. So based on some classification changes and length of time, we've only have a 0.5% growth for that number there. Over time, this year, we did kind of see a bit of a spike when we're going through and seeing our comparisons from what we budgeted from last year to this year. So we have increased our request this year in the approximately $18,000, or about just over 18%. On-call pay, this is for our investigation team, pardon me, that we have 2 members from our Fire Investigation Bureau. They're on call all year, and this is a set wage that's negotiated. Again, there has been no impact with or no change with respect to that. Statutory holiday, same thing, because this value is set based on the salaries of the firefighters, and there's no change there. It will be impacted upon a contract ratification. OMERS, there is a drop in that. That's due to we've had a retirement of a senior officer, and then subsequently replaced by a junior firefighter. So you'll see some changes there. The rest of the information, again, is just basically with respect to benefits, things that are kind of outside of our control but are contingent to contract negotiations. Moving on to kind of the breakdown of things. So the top line we have there, again, wages and benefits, as I said, connected directly to the contract, and we can't have any adjustments there. The lines I get to play with are underneath the supplies, repairs, and maintenance. When we'll go through some of the changes that we've requested with respect to that. But all in all, we've actually got a decrease of what we're looking at here of approximately 1.2% from what we requested last year, or just over $8,000. Our dispatch and emergency preparedness and reserves accounts, we're all sitting at about the same with there. We're not looking at any increases as to what has been already set for base budget. So when we look at it as a whole, total expenditures based on the numbers that we have right now, we're looking at about a 1% increase for the fire service to move forward on for our 2019 budget request. Now, when we go through some of the line-by-line items, one of the things that I do want to point out, if you are comparing last year's budget lines to this year's budget lines, we did kind of have a bit of a trial of looking at separating our suppression division and our fire prevention and fire training divisions as far as their wages and such like that. It didn't work that well. It kind of was a little bit confusing. And we had a lot of conversations back and forth with our Treasury Department as to why this number was written instead of this one, and things are all over. So if you have questions when we're going through the line by line as to why there's a zero in the budgeted for and there's money there, I can explain it that way. We're not going to go forward. We're going back to the way it worked before. It wasn't broken, so let's get back to it. Growths within our base budget. As I mentioned, we've got a growth in the overtime. This year we did notice a couple of times when we're looking at some of our required training that we need to have, we do have to wind up taking a shift off duty while they're there to be able to have the consistent timing for them to go through. What that winds up being is we have to bring off-duty people in to fill that space. We had a couple of instances where we did that. The unfortunate thing is we wind up if we bring a full shift of 12 off, we have to bring a minimum of 8 staff in, and that winds up being a significant amount. So it only takes a couple of instances where we do that we see this number jump. For the 2019 period, we've increased it because we have seen a trend in the overtime going up. We wanted to prepare for it, but the hope and the goal is that with the capital project for the training center that we've got that was approved last year, that we'll actually see a drop in some of that, because some of the programs where we would have had overtime for training aspects we'll actually be able to do on shift and on duty and not have to have additional staff for it. General insurance, we do have a drop of about $2,000 with respect to that. There were some changes into our coverages. Building repairs and maintenance, Parkinson Road is undergoing a large renovation there with some new areas, but we still have the core of the old original building as well as Van Ave Station. They do have ongoing matters that continue to go through that are outside of a capital project, and they do increase in value as we go. So we've just asked for a modest growth with that. Office supplies for this year, we've asked for growth of $1,000. We tend to cap out quite quickly in the year as what we've seen in past years, so we're just looking for a minor there. Conferences and seminars, I think last year we dropped this amount down. This year I've bumped it back up. We are at a point where we're looking at another capital replacement of an apparatus, and there is a large conference and seminar that's down in the States that deals with a lot of this, that I might take the opportunity to go down to be able to have access to see some information there. So I wanted to have the opportunity to add that in without going over on anything. Underneath of our uniforms, we are relatively bound by what we have to provide our members based on the contractual agreement that is in place. So I've taken the opportunity to go through and try to line up what the costing is of everything and what we have to put forward, and try to set that in as what the 2019 dollar values will be. That brought us to just under $2,000 growth for that. With our water expense, again, with the growth of the Parkinson Road Station, one of the renovations that we did was we increased the size of our water meter to allow a quicker, hopefully a better flow throughout the rest of the station. Unfortunately, that does increase our rate that we're going to be paying monthly, and it will increase the amount of water that's used. What amount, we don't know. We're kind of taking a shot in the dark here of hopefully the 1,000 will be enough for it. Purchase services, we've increased that to about by 1,700. This is a fluctuating number. It tends to be, I think we're going to get hit with it this year again. One of our biggest draws that we have in our purchase services account is our snow removal. And as I'm sure our city engineer will talk to about when we look at what we've been dealing with for the past little while, snow removal is going to be a great expense this year, although they are calling for a very quick and sudden spring, so maybe it'll be a melt and it'll be gone quicker than we hope. But again, a modest growth with there. For our personal protective equipment, this is the bunker gear and the safety equipment that all our members wear. Again, we look at what the replacement term is for each of the pieces of equipment. They generally have about a 10-year lifespan. With the exception of our bunker gear, we supply 2 sets for every member, and every other piece we try to supply a single piece at the time. The bunker gear we try to offset so that we're replacing them every 5 years for the members instead of buying them 2 new sets at the same time. By forecasting what a replacement schedule would be for and looking at all the equipment of what we need to do to repair or replace on an ongoing basis, that's where we came up with a $5,000 growth for that. Now, when we look through the positive side of things, there are the reductions. The caretaking account, when I go back through and I try to look back at the past 5 years, something I've learned from Councillor Talbot, she likes to continually make sure we keep on top of what's the trending. We tended to find that with this account, we were never really kind of close to the cap out there, so we were able to comfortably reduce an amount from that. Our radio system and maintenance and repair for this year as well, similar thing, we were looking at what our ongoing costs were in relation to the maintenance of it, and there was a large opportunity for us to have a reduction in that. The system itself as a whole is slated for a potential capital project for 2020. If we do have a major issue with the equipment there, we are able to potentially approach. We've got reserves to be able to do a replacement or repair on a large scale at that time. Consumables, similar to the caretaking supplies, it's just a review of the counts over the past couple of years to see what is our average use of that and to be able to reduce it effectively. Electricity, same thing. We've been able to. I think we had about 3 years ago, there was a general increase across the board just because rates were, we weren't sure where rates were going to go. So we were able to monitor for the past few years. We've had some upgrades to LED and such like that within the facility. It allows us to drop down our budgeted forecast there. We've had consistent numbers on that. Oh, sorry. The only other item that we've got is with the exchanges here, there is 2 accounts that are directly related to training. You will note that when you go through them, you'll see one was at, I believe, one was $20,000, one was $35,000, and then there'll be a $15,000 swing. What we've done is we've just swapped the amounts to the 2 different accounts to make them more conducive to what the nature of the account is for. One is for instructional resources and the other is for courses. We were finding that we were needing a larger balance for the instructional resources as opposed to what was within the courses themselves. We are moving towards trying to host a lot of the courses in-house, which will reduce the amount of cost for going out. but we still needed to maintain the same budget. So while the two accounts, the numbers individually have changed, the overall balance for those two remains exactly the same with no additions for that. One of the things I will continue to kind of talk about until we get to a point that we're ready for, we didn't add it as an addition to base budget, but the city continues to grow. We still always look at where our inspection bureau is going. We are quite busy with respect to that. Although it's not an ask here, I do kind of bring it up to keep it fresh in council's mind that at some point we will be looking at an additional staff member within our prevention division for the inspections. And with that, that's me. Any questions?
Any questions of council? Councillor Schattenberg.
Yeah, through the acting mayor to Jeff Slager. Just to, I guess, clarify maybe for the people watching that might be watching at home on the internet or whatever, the current staffing situation for the fire department, it's 24 hours on, then 1 day off, 24 hours on?
Your acting worship, through to the question. What we've got, the rotation that we have of our 48 suppression personnel, again, divided into 4 shifts of 12. So yes, they are on a 24-hour shift. So each individual shift will work 24 hours on shift, 24 hours off shift, 24 hours on shift, and then a 5-day off. So it's an 8-day week for them, and by the spread of that over, it averages out to a 42-hour work week for them on a 7-day schedule.
Councillor Fraser.
Acting Mayor Ancioni through to Chief Slager. Your addition, how's it progressing? And with the addition, and you're expanding your offices there, I know you've dropped your maintenance and cleaning budget, per se, but you're also expanding the amount of area that has to be done, correct?
Acting worship, through to Councillor Fraser. Now, the budget lines that we reduce the amounts in are actually for the products themselves that we've been using. We find that for the consumables, it would be the actual cleaning materials per se that we bring in. So we found that it's still an average setup. We're still going to be good with respect to that. The building, the expansion itself, we only have really, as far as cleanable space, I guess you could look at for where that would set in. We have 2 new offices being added into, and a proper foyer, a proper lobby. So while it's going to be great for us and it's a great expansion to kind of relieve some of the pressure that's there, we don't foresee that there's going to be a greater need or a drive for the accounts that we were looking at to being able to reduce.
Thank you. And just one further comment, if it's okay. I never really look at the overtime budget line because I don't know in emergency service how you ever budget for overtime, because all you need is 1 or 2 major events and your budget's blown all to hell in the water. So keep at it.
Thank you.
You have no experience in that, do you? Any other questions? As always, excellent presentation. Thank you very much. What's that? Oh, the line. Sorry, we didn't go through each. Yeah. Just any questions at all? Sorry. Yeah, my bad.
You were all just shocked that I was actually short, so.
Yeah. Any questions for pages 46 and 47? Light items, sorry. Councillor Schattenberg.
To Jeff Slager one more time. I guess statutory pay would be one question that comes up. $303,500 for 2019, just slightly up over 2018. If the firemen have kind of on a set rotational schedule, what's the statutory pay for?
Acting worship, through to Councillor Schattenberg. So with our the firefighters, because of the nature of the schedule that they work within the contract, they have it set out that there is a lieu day pay. So that is on the final pay of November, they are actually paid for the statutory days throughout the course of the year. We do have a contractual requirement that of the 13 that are out there, they have to take at least 2 of them as time off that that's paid for, but it's not an additional pay. The rest they can take as time pay or as time off. We look at, when we come together with this budget amount, we look at if all the 48 firefighters request a payout for their remaining 11 statutory holidays, that's the value that we come through. Though we do have a number of them that use it as time off instead.
Any other questions on anything at all? Okay, seeing none. Now you can have a seat. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Appreciate that.
Council.
And now we'll move along to Public Works. And I have a feeling you're going to be up here for a little while.
Well, Your Worship,
So-
that can be as long or short as you want.
We're going to start with pages 13 to 21 for Public Works, everybody.
Hey, can I do my presentation first?
Oh, yes, of course.
Thanks.
Hey, I gave you the opportunity to quickly
Oh, you
sit
skipped it
down,
too,
right?
yeah. Your Worship, Council. This evening, I'd like to present to you the budgets from James Street. There we go. So the budgets, the accounts so we'll be looking at this evening from James Street are Public Works, the 300 accounts, the Building Department, the 0301, Waste and Recycling, 0302, Engineering, 0303, Bylaw, 0304, Sanitary, Water, Parking, Transit, and Paratransit. Starting off with Public Works, 2018 year in review. We had a number of hires this year. We hired a new supervisor. We hired a new assistant supervisor. We had 4 employees retire, and we had 12 hires to replace, well, not to replace just the 4, but also some other employees that shifted to other departments. So we were quite busy hiring all year round, actually. We maintained 230 kilometers of sanitary sewer, 160 kilometers of storm sewer, and 260 kilometers of water main, and maintained 214 kilometers of roads and 274 kilometers of sidewalk. Objectives for 2013, and we want to continue to improve on our compliance to regulatory requirements, as well as improve on our records retentions and documentation. So looking at the numbers in the 0300 account, and these are general, they're obviously not as much detail as what's shown in your books. Revenue, 2018 to 2019, revenue from equipment, we're showing a $13,000 increase. Charges to the county, we're showing a $3,000 increase of 0.3%. Sales of materials, we're showing a $1,000 increase. So basically our revenues are going from just over $2 million to $2,025,000, or a 0.8% increase on revenues. In terms of expenditures, roads and sidewalks, just over $1.5 million. We're looking at a $5,000 increase. Overhead, right now we're just over 3.2 million. We're projecting 3.4 million, so $210,000. And I'll get to why that is in a bit. Storm sewer, pretty much staying the same with a $9,000 increase. Water operations, just over $1 million, looking at a $23,000 increase. Leaf and brush collection, pretty much staying the same at $146,000 right now, looking at $149,000. And miscellaneous, $165,000 to $296,000, or an increase of $131,000. And again, I'll get to that in a minute. So basically, in total, the expenditures are increasing from 6.42 million to 6.8 million, or an increase of 5.9%. Taking off the revenue, we're looking at an increase of 364,000, or 8.2%. So notable changes to the budget, and these refer to the going back to what the numbers I was just going over. A large portion of those comes from transfer of costs from the waste management to the public works to reflect the revised cycles of the curbside bulk item collection. You probably remember a few weeks ago, council approved the change going from 6 cycles down to 2, recognizing that the $71,000 would come out of the waste budget and get transferred over to the public works budget. And then the other one was this budget now shows a full year of reimbursing the county for the waived user fees for the city resident use of the Enviro Depot. Last year we had in about, I think I remember, 23,000. looking at projections for a full year worth of operation, and it's been quite an attractive program apparently, because we're looking at that reimbursement of looking at probably about $100,000 next year. So additions to base budget for the Public Works. We want to fill currently the Public Works superintendent position is vacant. We would like to fill that position with either a manager of Public Works or a director of Public Works. At a minimum, a manager of Public Works, we would increase the requirements to require a P-Engine and a university degree. We feel that this would provide somebody who is going to be more organized, has more planning, financial, and analytical skills. That the position is more regulatory centered now and needs more efficiency and organizational skills. It's no longer a position that's capable for someone working their way up the ranks. It needs someone with, as I said, the planning, financial, and analytical skills to be able to organize the activities, probably put proper metrics to them, and be able to project costs and what's going to happen throughout the year. The other option to that is to create a director of Public Works. This one would build on the advantages of a manager of Public Works, and also would allow for focused efforts on both departments. It would basically split the engineering department into two, an engineering department and a Public Works department. It would allow both departments to basically look over 4 sub-departments. It would reduce the level of management in the existing structure, and would also separate dealing with the unions from inside to outside. Another addition to base budget is to convert the mechanics positions to a lead hand mechanic. This is not a new position. Basically, we want to take one of the existing mechanics and put him, similar to what we do in Public Works with the assistant supervisors. We want to make an assistant supervisor mechanic. So he's kind of a step ahead of all the other mechanics, so that the other mechanics can go to him first instead of interrupting the mechanic supervisor all the time. So the mechanic supervisor is able to spend time and concentrate more on the paperwork that needs to be done. A third addition to base budget, is we're asking for 3 additional summer students. We've had, it seems last few years we get quite a consistent theme of complaints about we're not getting to the boulevard mowings as often as we used to, and a large part of that is because the city has grown, and using the existing students we have, we're just not able to do it on the 1-week cycle that we used to have. That week has stretched into a week and a half, 2 weeks or more sometimes, depending on what other activities have to be done also. So we're hoping with 3 additional students that we can shorten that cycle a little bit more. The building department, year in review. We had 702 building permits were issued for a construction value of $213 million, compared to 845 permits in 2017 at a construction value of $184 million. Construction value has increased for the 4th year in a row, and residential construction pretty much was as expected, a good portion of it at 69%, with industrial at 24%. Building department objectives for next year, we're going to switch to a new building permit software. We're partnering with the county on this one. We're switching to the Amanda system. We want to continue conversion to electronic files. More and more we're trying to get rid of the paper files. And we want to investigate the possibility of electronic permit application, submission, and plan reviews, so that people can hopefully do that online. So in terms of the numbers for building, and you have to remember that by law, building is self-funded, so whatever we pull in is also what we have to spend, and vice versa. So it's not funded at all by the tax levy. So for revenues, we're projecting no change in either permits or expenses, and then because of that, actually, we're projecting no change in the expenditures. Additions to base budget for building, we're asking for an additional 4-month co-op student of $10,000, and this student would help us to work on getting ahead and trying to convert some of those paper files into electronics, scanning them and put them in the proper directories and all that. Waste management, 0302, 2018 year in review. We collected just shy of 6,000 tons of garbage compared to 5,700 in 2017, and just shy of 2,600 tons of recyclables compared to just shy of 3,000 in 2017. We collected about just over 4,500 tons of yard waste, which is the largest to date, and we opened the Enviro Depot, which was a while in coming. In the 6 months that we were open, we had over 15,000 users. We collected over 511 tons of bulk items dropped off versus the curbside annual pickup, which last year we had 376 tons. And we also collected 293 tons of construction and debris material. So the notable changes in the waste management, it shows the numbers for the first full year of the Enviro Depot operations, as well as it also reflects the, like I mentioned before, the switching from 6 cycles to 2 cycles for the curbside bulk item collection. So here are the numbers in summary for waste management. County funds, last year we were at 2.046 million. This year we're projecting 2.1 million, or an increase of $54,000 or 2.6%. Other sources, going from 437,000 to 449, or an increase of $12,000. The county funds there, I'm just going to skip back just a half a second. That 2.6%, that'll actually decrease possibly depending on what council decides to do on weekly recycling, which option they decide to pick on. So I just want to point that out. So an increase, a total increase in the revenues of 2.7%. In expenditures, waste collection going from $515,000 to $527,000. Bulk item going from, recycling going from 974 to 978. A minimal increase of $4,000. Bulk item going down from 109 to 38,000. That's to reflect the reduced cycles. Composting and yard waste going from 89,000 to 85. In Enviro Depot going from 229 to 352, and again that's to reflect the full year's operation. Recycling Depot pretty much staying the same, going from 45,000 to 46,000, and overhead dropping from 527,000 to 523,000. Total changes for expenditures 2.48 million to 2.55 million, basically going up $66,000 or 2.7%. Oh, I think I skipped one. Oh, no, I guess I didn't. So waste management, additions to base budget. You've seen probably a number of reports. I know you've seen a number of reports on this over the last year, two. We are proposing, and the city, the survey put out just before Christmas kind of reflected that the residents would like to see more frequent recycling collection. So we're offering three different ways to do that. It needs to be noted, I think, that all the options require a new truck. And due to the lead time on a truck, with assuming that council approves the budget at the end of March and we put out a tender to bid on, to get bids on a new truck, there's like a 10-month lead on truck equipment. So whatever change council decides to do as part of this budget cycle, it really won't be able to be implemented until spring of 2020. So I just want to make sure that's clear so that nobody expects that next week, things will be changing. The current agreement with the County of Oxford requires that the city pay the increased cost of more frequent recycling. As you know, that right now the county reimburses for the cost of waste management. The way the current agreement is situated, the increased cost due to the more frequent recycling will be the city's cost. It will be on the city levy. So just want to make that clear also. So out of the 3 options that we're presenting to council, there is the 2-stream fixed day. So you got 3 garbage trucks on the road and 4 recycle trucks. This system would be very similar to what we have right now. You'd have your fixed day. You'd be a Monday or Tuesday or whatever. You would still sort your recycling. You would put out your fibers in your containers. 1 truck, 2 trucks would come down the street. One would be collecting your garbage. The other one would be collecting your recyclable material. The problem with this system is that it still keeps the double days going, which they're quite a hardship, especially around Christmas, and especially if it snows during those days. Things get really hectic. The cost to the city levy, we're projecting 184,000 per year operating and 260,000 capital for that option. The second option is to go to a 5-day rolling cycle in which we would use 7 split trucks. So the trucks are split so that half would be take your garbage and half would be recycling. People would no longer have to sort the recycling. Everything just goes into the bin, fibers and containers all in the same bin. You'd be a Monday until there's a holiday, and then all of a sudden everybody gets pushed back. And then you'd be a Tuesday until there's another holiday, and then you get pushed back. It eliminates the double days. Part of the problem with this is at Christmas, due to all the stat holidays in the Christmas season, you're looking at about 12 days between, the maximum of 12 days between collections. So staff looked at it, and as a way to address this, what we are proposing is between Christmas and New Year, when we're open for 2 days, there's no 2 stat days there, we would open the Enviro Depot to allow residents to drop off their recycling material at the depot during that time. It's a minimal cost to open it for the 2 days. We're estimating about $4,000. So, and eliminating the double days saves about $60,000 a year. Anyway, so the cost of the city levy of doing that is estimated $176,000 a year, or and plus an additional $230,000 for the additional truck. And then the third option to increase recycling is to do similar to the 5-day, but instead have a 6-day rolling. So everything would be very identical to the 5-day system. No sorting of recycles. You do split trucks. You'd have that 13 days between collection, but then again, we'd open the depot during those 2 days between Christmas and New Year. The big difference is your garbage day is going to change every week. You're going to go Monday, one day, 1 week, Tuesday the next, Wednesday the next. This can be handled in a number of ways. Or we've got the service calendar that comes out every year that will show your collection day. Also, there's a waste app that you can get email reminders to tell you, boom, your collection day is tomorrow. This is the most cost-effective way. It also allows for growth to the city. Right now, with the other 2 systems, they're pretty much at the capacity of what they can do in a day. If not, there's some days where the afternoon crew has to clean up. This allows some growth that we won't be asking for an 8th truck in the near future. Anyway, the cost for that is $154,000 a year, $230,000 in capital. Engineering year in review, further development of the asset management program. We hired a new surveyor who is a replacement of a retirement. No, sorry, not a retirement, a switch in position. And we hired a brand new position for a utility locate technician. We worked contracting out locates, and now we're doing them in-house. We completed phase 2 of the LED street program, and completed approximately $10 million of construction projects. The objectives for 2019 in engineering, we want to complete the whole city in LED conversion, as well as work with Treasury to continue the asset management program plan development and improvement to meet provincial requirements. Looking at the numbers for revenue for engineering, we're hoping to go from 408,000 to 442,000 in revenue, so an increase in 20.3%, and most of that is due to reimbursements for the in-house locator. Excuse me. In terms of expenditures, engineering going from 1.44 million to 1.59 million, or an increase of 149,000 or 10.3%. Streetlights, traffic signals going from 827,000 down to 762,000, or a decrease of 65,000. We're finally starting to see some of the improvements of the LED conversion in terms of reduced electric and reduced maintenance, or reduced repairs. And then the miscellaneous others is pretty much staying the same. So the net cost to the city for the engineering department of 1.94 million to 2.01 million, or an increase of 3.7%. As I mentioned, notable change in the budget it showed the first full year of the utility locate technician. So far, it's worked out really well. And and the effects of that can be seen not just in engineering, but it's also shown in the water budget and the sanitary budget and public works, because all those, he locates sanitary sewer, he locates water main, he locates storm sewer, he locates street wire. So the impacts of this position are throughout a number of different departments. Engineering additions to base budget, asking for the asphalt resurfacing reserve be increased 200,000. We started this program a number of years ago, and we're trying to get up to, excuse me, $2.4 million, and so we just want to take that next step. Bylaw. Bylaw in 2018 had over 1,200 concerns and complaints, compared to just over 1,000 in 2017. Bylaw department worked with the engineering to implement the safe school zone policy, and Public Works helped to install the signage, and then Bylaw is still out there every day monitoring all the school areas for infractions. As well, Council, we had a third Bylaw officer that came on board this year. 2019 objectives for the bylaw department. We want to work on updating the sign bylaw and the parks bylaw. We want to investigate administrative penalties to streamline appeals and guarantee payment. We possibly want to increase, we want to look at the possibility of increasing no stopping fines in school zones. We're finding people are having an issue of basically, oh, for 15 bucks I can ignore that, that's willing to pay, I'm willing to pay that. So again, this is all about the safety of the kids here, so we really want to put some teeth behind our cracking down on it. Bylaws planning on working with Public Works to standardize and update the municipal parking lot signage. Basically make it consistent through all of it, and then also we want to clarify, especially in the winter, where you can park overnight and where you can't. Some of the signages can be a little confusing on that respect. And we also have just started looking at and want to continue looking at investigating electronic parking ticket enforcement and payment. The numbers for bylaw revenue, $6,000 last year, and we're planning on it being the same, so no change there. Expenditures from $215,000 for 2018 to $251,000 for 2019, an increase of $36,000 or 16.7%. And most of that is because of the third bylaw officer. Addition to base budget for bylaw, and I wasn't sure where to put this in bylaw or in Public Works. As you know, the province has changed the minimum maintenance standards for sidewalks in the winter. They now have a standard. They never did have a standard for snow clearing. So the city has two options on how to deal with this. We can either do it with city forces, or we can pass a bylaw. It requires the homeowner, the property owners to clear the sidewalk. If we do it with city forces, we needed a minimum an additional 3 FTEs, as well as additional equipment. With that, it's estimated that city forces could only meet the standard 4 days out of 7 due to shifts and the fact that we don't have mandatory overtime. Restoration costs will increase due to trackless equipment damaging adjacent lawns. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, and it's kind of timely, but I actually had 2 or 3 complaints this week about people complaining that the trackless had been down their sidewalk in front of their house and had ripped up their lawns. And we spend, and we know that happens, and we spend, weeks every spring, repairing those lawns. But if we're now going to be jumping down every sidewalk, it's just going to go up. Machines don't do as good a job as people. People, when they shovel their own sidewalk, at least this is what I see in my neighborhood, they take a little more care of, doing it. Whereas the machine, it doesn't get right down to the concrete, and it goes at 22 kilometers an hour and just keeps on trucking, right? So we expect increased complaints. The cost for the program would be an additional $150,000 a year operating, as well as an additional $220,000 capital investment. The other option to meet the minimum maintenance standards would be for the city to pass a bylaw requiring residents to shovel. Currently, there's a bylaw in the downtown area, but nothing outside the downtown area. I'm not saying, and I don't think the existing bylaw should be just expanded. It'd be a whole new bylaw, because the existing bylaw, the way it's written, doesn't necessarily fit. It basically says it's got to be clear all the time. It really doesn't give the property owner any delay time, which, anyway, I'm getting off track. Most residents take care of their sidewalks already and do a better job than the trackless does. The city has a snow buddy program to help those who cannot physically do the work. The city would pass a bylaw requiring all residents to clear the sidewalk within 24 hours of an event. Staff would then patrol the city and give warnings to those who had not cleared the sidewalk, and then staff would give a non-compliant list to the contractor to clear in the next 24 hours. The cost of the contractor's work would be assessed to the property. So even if we get out there and put your address on a list, you still got that time between when we put it on the list to when the contractor shows up. And what we're thinking is we're going to require the contractor to take a picture when he shows up to show that it either has been done or hasn't been done, and then also when he's done to prove to us that he actually did it. Anyway, the cost, because the cost of cleaning would then be assessed to the property owner, really there's just some minor administration costs to the city, and we're estimating about $20,000. Sanitary sewer fund is, since the county owns the sanitary sewer in the city, we just maintain it. This fund is fully county funded. 2018, the revenue was estimated at $530,000. 2019, we're bumping it up $37,000 to $567,000, a 7% increase. Expenditures for repairs pretty much staying the same, going from $222,000 to $223,000, 0.5% increase. Cleaning going up $3,000 to $149,000. Inspections staying the same at $42,000 a year, and the other miscellaneous costs going from $120,000 to $153,000. Overall, increase in expenditures is 7%, and because it's a county-funded account, it's overall net increase of 0. The water department, again, another county-funded account, since the water main is owned by the city. County funds are actually anticipated to go down next year, or we're budgeting. Right now, the budget number stands at $1.6 million. We're estimating $1.5 million for next year, or a decrease of 0.9%. Other sources pretty much staying the same with a slight decrease of $1,000. Expenditures going down $14,000 from basically $1.77 million to $1.75 million. And a large portion of this decrease in cost of the water department is due to the locator that we now have in-house. We were paying a lot of money to have an outside company do the locates, and we're saving a ton of money having it done in-house. Parking department, 0307. Revenue pretty much staying the same at $168,000, basically going up 1.2%. Expenditures, administration going from $109,000 to $111,000, of a 1.8% increase. Operations and expenses staying the same at $57,000. And then so, again, this is one of those net zero accounts. Anything extra we have in this account, we basically put it in the reserves. So the net being 0 across the board. Transit, 0709, 2018 year in review. It's the first full year we had with the electronic fares, which provide better statistics on ridership and ease of use for the riders. We started off a little bit rocky, but I think we've got it going pretty smoothly now. We'd like to get some more people to register their cards so that, when they lose them, they don't lose all their money that they had on the cards. and it's to their own advantage if they do register, because then we can get them, their whatever funds they had left over on the card back. We hired a new transit supervisor who's here with us this evening, Jeff. We hired 8 part-time transit operators. Ridership in 2018, and it says 19 there, was just over 455,000. And I think that number might be a little low. Actually, I think there's an updated number. I think that might be higher than that. Transit numbers, for the numbers. Fares we're projecting to stay the same at $570,000. Miscellaneous revenue, pretty much a minor increase of $1,000 to $622,000. So total revenue going from 1.19 to 1.192, basically a 0% change. Expenditures, operations going from 2.33 million to 2.37 million, an increase of 37,000 or 1.6%. Administration costs going from 668 to 659, a decrease of $9,000 or 1.3%. So net going from 1.81 basically to 1.83 or 1.84, an increase of $27,000 or 1.5% overall. Transit additions to base budget that we're asking council to approve. We'd like to do a transit study this year. I'm sure you're all aware there's a few areas in town, some industrial, but mostly, some industrial, but also and mostly residential areas that the buses are not providing services to, and we have heard that from the residents that they want bus service, basically more in the north area and the northeast area. So we want to do an in-house study, and that will be a public study, and obviously the results of that will come to council for approval. We're asking for $10,000 to run the study, and what we want to do is find a way to get service to the whole city without increasing costs, without throwing another bus on the road if we can. So that's the one ask. The second ask is we'd like to introduce part-time lead hands. This would provide basically supervisorial role in the off hours, the non-office hours. It would create a part-time lead hand position and assist with supervision during non-office hours. The lead hand would be able to respond to issues as they occur, would be able to provide better customer service, like to any issues that happen right there and then, would also be able to respond with bus switchovers if there's breakdowns, detours on the fly, and so basically improving the customer service by being able to respond immediately to issues. Right now, if anything pops up, they have to call somebody, and it can take half an hour to an hour for that person to show up. Estimated cost for this is $40,000 for the year. All right. Next addition to base budget is increased transit fares. Last increase was in 2015 or 2016, so we're asking for a 10% increase to help offset increased costs over last year. This also kind of follows in with the recommendations of the 2015 operational review of Woodstock Transit that some of you may remember. We're estimating an additional revenue of $50,000 if we do this. Something else for council to consider is extending evening hours Monday through Saturday to midnight. The goal would be a trial period, and the goal would be we're trying to hit at least 10 rides per hour. The cost of this would be $321,000 a year. The other expansion to operations would be to provide Sunday service from 8 till 6. And again, we would have a goal of 10 rides per hour, and the cost of this would be $266,000 per year. It says hour there. Paratransit, costs, numbers, revenue. It didn't climb as much as we expected this year. We'd hoped for $140,000. It kind of leveled out at $130,000, so we're showing a decrease in revenue of $10,000 for revenue for paratransit. Operations increasing from $884,000 to $948,000, or $64,000. Administration dropping $2,000 from 35 to 33. So net costs going from $779,000 for paratransit to $851,000 for paratransit, or change of 9.3%. That's it.
A lot of information there. Thank you very much. Good presentation. Now, questions in general of council before we get into the line items. Councillor Louder?
Thank you. Through the acting mayor to Harold. You did mention the Snow Buddy program. Can you just explain what that is?
Your worship, through the councillor, yeah, the Snow Buddy program is a program that started, was it last year or 2 years ago now? It's run by Emma in the Parks Department, and basically volunteers, high school students can sign up for it in order to help get their volunteer, then pairs them up with residents who say, I need help, I can't do it myself. So then basically it's we act as a facilitator to put the two together.
Thank you.
Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, question for Harold. The fact that we were looking at a 10-month waiting period for a new split truck or whatever kind of truck would be coming in for garbage or waste, if we were to convert to the system where you're doing double pickup at the same time and you wanted 7 dual trucks, would you not have to replace the entire fleet? Or convert to the current trucks?
Your worship, through the councillor, when we do double days, we do have spare trucks. And they're, so we would use them as much as possible, as well as we also use trailers, stake trucks and trailers. So that's how we do collection on double days. Does that not answer?
Well, just that you said before that if you did the recycling, basically, and the garbage at the same time, you would then put a trailer at the back of the current garbage truck?
No, a trailer goes in the back of a stake truck. Warren, you want to say?
No, we don't have to convert our entire fleet. Right now, most of our trucks are already dual packers and can pick up in 2 separate streets off the street right now. We just need one more to complete for the expansion of the Newton recycling.
Oh, I'm sorry, maybe I didn't make that clear. Okay, yeah, the additional is to expand on our, expand on our existing fleet.
If I can just add a question to that, then I just noticed a price difference between the different options, the 260,000 to the 230,000.
Yep. And that's for the additional equipment that we'll need for the double days, the trailers.
The trailers.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Sorry, Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Your Acting Worship, and through to our esteemed city engineer. I take it you're favoring the rolling 6-day collection or the rolling 5. Either one, in particular the rolling 6, changes the day that your garbage and recycling would be picked up basically every week. As I understand it. And then if that's the case, how do we educate the public to when they put their garbage and recyclables over? Because some people, like myself, have trouble as it is now.
Your worship, through the councillor. Well, for one, I think the troubles that people have now is it's 2 weeks. And I know myself, it's like, oh, did I do recycling last week or not? I don't remember, you know. But so if you do 5-day rolling, you'll only get bumped every time there's a holiday. So like I said, you'll be from January to Family Day, you'll be Monday. And then you'll bump at Family Day, you'll bump to Tuesday, you'll be Tuesday until Easter, you know, that kind of thing. If you go 6 days, then you'll change every week. Southwest Oxford went 6-day. If they can handle it, I'm pretty sure we can. I'll be really disappointed if we can't. But that being said, there are means to help that. Like I said, there's the calendar, there's the apps that'll send you a reminder. So I think we can do it.
Just a continuation of that. You don't think the 6-day would cause a furor within the public about trying to figure it out? You think it could advertise enough, given enough time? It's going to take a year to get the truck.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Advertise, and reduce the complaints.
Your worship, through the councillor, I think there's always going to be complaints, but yes, we would advertise the heck out of it. we got 10 months to lead up to it, and I think every time I open my mouth, I'm gonna be saying, oh, by the way, there's 6-day collection coming.
If I can just add on to that too, more of a statement. So you said Southwest is doing this now?
So, yeah.
Have they found much complaint, or like, have you talked to them much about this? I'm just curious.
No, they said it worked out well. It was an initial hiccup, but it ran smoothly.
Yeah. Okay.
And they found even unexpected cost savings that they didn't expect to see.
Yeah.
So.
Councillor Schonberg, thank you.
I guess just looking for a clarification on one statistic you mentioned. You said there was 274 kilometers of sidewalks in Woodstock. I just wanted to sort of more of a reflection to the public to understand that the size and the scope if we were to go out and have enough equipment to clear all those sidewalks.
Your worship, through the councillor, yep, 274.
A lot of side. Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, your acting worship, and through again, which is a follow-up question. If you add a machine and staffing to operate the machine, you think we'd be able to meet the standards of getting the snow off the sidewalks, in particular in some areas, but you feel that there'd be an increase in complaints about ripped lawns that you'd have to deal with?
Your worship, through the councillor, we would be able to, first of all, adding three employees based on calculations, and some of my supervisors have thought that my calculations were a little overly ambitious. We can just meet the minimum maintenance standard 4 days out of 7. Because with the no mandatory overtime and the off shift at the environment depot people work, yeah, it's just basically Tuesday to Friday would be the only times we would meet the standard. And looking around at, I did some research online and looking around at other municipalities, they all found that when they switched from having residents clean to having the city clean, there was an increase in residents complaining about their sidewalks getting turfed. We actually have already had, I've had residents in some neighborhoods call me and say, please do not send your trackless down my side.
Any other general questions before we get into the page by page? Okay.
Your worship, through the councillor, actually this bridge maintenance is more vandalism type stuff and just minor fixes. Yeah, anything major in terms of bridge rehab and studies is under the engineering budget. Oh, and if I could interject, your worship, I just got some new numbers from your worship, through the councillor. You know what? Every spring, end of every winter, people always say, "Oh, the potholes are going to be worse this year." This has pretty much been I mean, this is kind of the budget we've been rolling with for the last few years. And you know what? If we have to take some full-time wages from another account, you know, we'll do that in order to make sure the potholes are fixed. It just means that we'll be under on it will be low. We won't spend the full-time amount on another account.
Continue.
Another question. I know for the past couple of years you've had a crew rebuilding sidewalks at corners, making it more accessible. What part of your budget is that into? Is that into the sidewalk repairs? Your
worship, through the council, that is correct. Yep. And we meet the current AODA standards, and I think if you probably noticed, we've been putting in those tactile plates now. For a while there, we were putting grooves in, but the new standard now is to put the bumped plates in.
crew that's doing that is rather efficient.
Oh,
And
good. Thank you.
And they're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Please pass it on.
Thank you.
Okay, no more questions for 14-15. We'll go to 15-16. 16-17. That works too. Okay, seeing none. Move along. 18-19. Oh, sorry. Councillor Fraser?
Thank you. And just going back, your communication system, at one time you were tagged on to the same system as police and fire.
Yep.
Are you still utilizing that?
Yes, we are.
And I take it that's part of your communication expense and 300,350?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. Because I see you went over budget last year, but you're not budgeted anymore. I take it.
No, Your Worship. That was partially it was $8,000. That was a cost from 2017 that never got billed into 2017. We had to pay, and then there looking through it just recently, there was a misbilling in there. Also, there's some fund that has to be transferred over to the patrol management software line.
Okay, anything on 18 and 19 then? Councillor Talbot.
Acting Mayor through to Harold. 0377 winter control supplies, is that salt, sand, and brine?
Your Worship, through the councillor, that is correct.
Are we still
Table salt.
having a hard time getting the salt, or has there been problems?
I know there is a shortage, but we have a contract, so they have to supply us, and they supply the municipalities first. So we're able to get it.
What would be the percentage that we like use salt, use brine, use sand? Which?
Do you know? I don't. I honestly, to Your Worship, to the councillor, I honestly don't know what the percentages of the three are. Do you have know tons of salt versus tons of sand?
For the last, it's constantly fluctuating depending on how we order it. We can hold up to 200 tons of sand in our present sand dome. That last winter storm with ice, we went through 400 tons of sand and salt mix to provide coverage for the city. We presently have 27 trucks ordered for salt, only 7 have arrived. It's a very slow process.
And just to continue on, I know that we've had a few events close together that have really strained the services, but overall, from our whole season, I don't think we've seen as much requirement like for
No.
No.
Your Worship, through the councillor, except for that one event, I got to say, and even that one, except for that one event, I think I'm quite proud of how our forces handled it. We had every road at least touched at least once within 24 hours, and pretty much everything cleaned up within 48. No, it was kind of a perfect storm, and I don't want to throw out excuses because I know some people don't want to listen to them. But we did have some equipment problems. The accident on the 401 tied up the whole south end of town, so we really could not plow in the south end of town because we couldn't get up to speed to plow. And it was just, it was just kind of a mess.
Just to further that, I think a lot of people don't understand either when Dundas Street is being plowed, the merchants push their snow off onto the roadway. We come in after hours with a blower and a truck and blow it in and take it away. But if we have establishments downtown that have patrons after certain hours, and if their vehicles are left there, it almost makes it impossible to do the job. You can always tell the areas that are really, really clean don't have establishments like that, and then you can tell where you're going to find some cars left on the road. But I thought it, when I was down the one time, it was perfect, and then you just...
Councillor Louder.
through the acting mayor to Harold. Um, do you have a record, because someone questioned me on this, said that, that there wasn't anyone around for a week on their streets. Do you have any type of records of where they go in the 24 hours that we can prove that, yes, they were there?
Your worship, through the councillor, we have GPS equipment on all our trucks, and we can track them. And I specifically asked our guys, and they told us every road had been touched within 24 hours after that event. So, yep.
Councillor Talbot?
Harold, or the worship through to Harold, 0804, the equipment charge others. We had budgeted 60, used almost 17,000, and next year we're budgeting 62,000, increase of 3.5. Can you just explain what the equipment charges like others? Is that for when we hire out? Like we had to hire front end loaders to try to break up the ice that had developed on some streets because our trucks weren't heavy enough? Is that what that would be?
Your worship, through the councillor, it's generally, when we rent equipment, but we end up using it, running it ourselves, that's when we use that account. If we bring in equipment and their driver runs it, it's usually charged under the contracts line then.
Still, in saying that, so then these equipment, or this equipment that we brought on, I thought we were bringing in private people that were doing it. Was that not correct?
Your worship, through the councillor, yes, you're correct. But if you look at snow removal contracts, up 2 lines.
Yep, I see it. What we used in 2018, but we haven't got anything budgeted.
Oh yeah, well it come from one or the other.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So were you just referring to 404, Councillor Talbot?
0804 and then 404.
Yeah.
And 404, the two, yeah, okay. I just had some notes here on that myself. Councillor Fraser, still have a question? Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Mr. Don. Just to follow up on Councillor Lauder's question, with a significant event, and I think this is more for the public, with a significant event, especially when we had the snow, ice, snow, rain, and so on. The fact that your crews can't really clear a street well on the first swipe if there's cars parked on the street. And we do have a snow bylaw to prevent cars parked on the street. Maybe if you can, just expand on the fact of the issues that causes, and I think some of the things I've seen was after the fact when your crews were able to go through, they were plowing ice up onto sidewalks and driveways rather than snow, and the ice was hard to move for the citizens. But I think some of that related to vehicles parked on the street when it wasn't necessary.
Your worship, through the councillor, yes, we do have a bylaw that prohibits parking on the roads in the winter months. We do have a bylaw officer that goes out regularly and tickets those vehicles for that sole fact that it gets in the way of the plows. The plows have to work around, the plows have to slow down. Occasionally a plow hits a car. That'll teach him. But yeah, it's basically to facilitate the plowing operations.
Well, I can honestly say, I just want to say congratulations to all the staff, because not only do we get a lot of complaints, I'm not sure about everybody else, I also get told that you guys do a great job by a lot of residents as well. So to pass that along.
Thank you very much.
People do see that
because we don't often hear that. Yeah.
I know, for sure. Any more questions on pages 18, 19 before we move along to 20 to 21 then? And that finish off Public Works. Okay, seeing, sorry, Councillor Schattenberg.
The acting mayor, through to Harold DeHaan. I noticed that on the sidewalk days and Christmas parade, there's billings attached to obviously your department for road closures, I would guess, and signage, and just staff time to be able to do all that work. would that not be something that should be on the BIA budget, because the BIA sponsors sort of both those events?
Your worship, through the counselor, if you want to make that change, you can, but I'm pretty sure BIA is going to say, no, we can't afford it. But yeah, it's something we've always done. So, and we've got it down to a science. We know what to do now. So we're happy to do it.
Last chance for any questions in Public Works section. Okay, we will move along to building. So that would be pages 22 and 23. Okay, seeing none, we will move along to waste recycling on pages 24 to 27. So pages 24 and 25, any questions? Councillor Schadenberg.
To Harold Hahn again, just curious as to why the sale of recycled material has gone from 2018 to 375,000. 2019, you're only projecting 310,000 for revenue for, people be doing more and more recycling.
Your worship, through the counselor, you're right. The tonnages, although last year was a bit of a dip down, but historically have been going up in terms of tonnages of what we collect. Unfortunately, the price for what we can sell it for has gone down. The market is kind of falling out.
I have a question for you just in general on the waste recycling. I've got lots of great comments from the citizens on the new depot. Some complaints have come from businesses driving their trucks after hours to get rid of the odd toilet or something like that or odd things from their own personal house. Is there any way to allow that? My understanding now is if they come in a commercial vehicle, they're not allowed whatsoever. Is that correct?
Your worship, right, that is correct. Right now, our permit to operate the site does not allow us to take any commercial material, just residential material, and that's why we have banned any commercial vehicles from coming into the site. So we would ask that right now, we are looking into it because we have heard the complaints. But right now, we're asking people that if you have a toilet, throw it in the trunk of your car instead of bringing it in your pickup truck, or that kind of thing. Use your alternate vehicle, borrow a friend's vehicle, just like somebody else with a smart car is going to do. But yeah, we have heard the complaint. We are looking at it.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I mean, I hate to say common sense, but if a company does come in and they're trying, it's quite obvious it's a personal use and not a whole job site of equipment. Maybe that's something we could look at.
Yeah, but
allowed.
Then it becomes gray, and then you become, one clerk says yes, and the next clerk says no, and
I understand.
And then what about the guy who's got the side job, and he's pulling stuff out of his neighbor, and he's getting, so.
I do understand that as well. No, thank you. All right, sorry, Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through Mr. Hahn, just on 302-0394, processing of solid materials. Recycling. I think I know what that is. It's a big expense, but I believe I know what it is. Just clarify me that I'm correct. That's brush chipping and those things?
Sorry, Your Worship, through the councillor, you're talking 302-80-421-394? Yes. Recycling process of sold material? Yes. Okay, that is the curbside recycling material, the fibers and containers that you put on your curb. That's the fee that they charge us once it gets to the plant to sort through the material so they can go to the proper place. So the class 5 plastics go to the class 5 pile, that kind of stuff.
Will that cost change at all if we're looking at a more regular basis pickup and everything?
Your worship, through the councillor, we used to get a premium for having it pre-sorted. But with the tank in the market, that premium's gone away. So now it's really no difference if you're pre-sort or not.
Any other questions for page 24 and 25? Councillor Fraser.
Just continuing on with that last one. So if we step up the recycling, but we don't sort, as we do you see a forecast in 2020 or 2021 an increase in that budget line?
Your worship, through the councillor, we are anticipating, or hoping for a 10% increase in recycling. Now, so you could say, okay, well, that'll increase our processing of sold material cost, but that'll decrease the tipping fees at the landfill. You'll have 10% less material going to the landfill.
Okay, last chance. Pages 24, 25. Okay, we will move along to 26 and 27 to finish off waste recycling. Okay. Oh, Councillor Lauder.
Just looking through the acting mayor to Harold. On the last one on page 26, the last line, the enviro, that's a real big increase for the transportation costs.
Your worship, through the councillor, yeah, the transportation for the Enviro Depot costs, yes. Now you got to remember that last year's estimate was it was an estimate, right? With a totally new program, we didn't know how much it was going to cost, and yeah, we found out that it was going to cost a lot more than we expected, and partially it's due because of how much that depot is being used. Like I said, we basically collected in 6 months twice the tonnage that we collected on the curbside in 6 cycles of curbside last year. Yep.
If I can add on that, so do we expect that then, just looking at like your 170, you think most people would get rid of their stuff in such a hurry, or do you really do expect that to stay increased?
Your worship, yeah, so we spent 103,000 in 6 months. If I just looked at it hard and doubled it, I'd be at 206. Right. But I'm kind of thinking that the depot was new. A lot of people got rid of a lot of stuff actually. That right. was just hanging around, you know, so I'm hoping that gut of is gone.
That's where I was thinking. I forgot it was only 6 months.
Yeah.
It's been open for, of course. Okay. Any other questions before we move along? Okay, seeing none, we will go to engineering. That would be pages 28 to 30, and we'll do all 3 pages, 28, 29, and 30 together if there's questions. Councillor Talbot.
Your worship, through the councillor, yeah, it's that number's always been there. It's just that with the new e-time card system, it's now being separated out, and that's why it's showing up. And that's similar to, you know, the vacation pay, the sick pay, you know, all those other pays that were used to be just rolled into the 101 account. And next year we're gonna fix that and roll it right all back into the 101 because it makes it complicated and confusing.
Councillor Schadenberg.
To the acting mayor, to Harold the Hall one more time, the aerial mapping for last year was $32,500. Just $500 in budget for this year. Was there a project that the new kid on the block doesn't know about that happened last year?
Your worship, through the councillor, there it is. We flew. Was it the whole city or most of the city? Just do the annexed areas last year, which cost us $32,000, and the $5,000 basically is just minor work. And what we're doing is we're probably going to start building up a reserve again, so we can fly the whole city again in what were we talking, 3 or 4 years? 3 years, yeah. And you'll see that down below at the bottom line there, provision for reserve aerial, 25,000.
Any other questions at all for that section? Again, pages 28 to 30 for engineering. Before we move along. Okay. Seeing none, we will go on to bylaw, page 31. Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, to Acting Mayor Accioni, back through to Harold DeHaan. You mentioned before that the staff had been increased in the bylaw enforcement department. What sort of hours do they work? Because we always think of bylaw enforcement of different things in evenings and parks and stuff like that.
Your Worship's through the councillor, and that it used to traditionally be 8:30 to 4:30, and that's before we got the third bylaw officer, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to get the third is we wanted to extend the hours. So what we've been doing recently, and this will probably change depending on the season. What we've been doing recently is we've had a guy starting at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. He's been doing the overnight parking. Now he'll work till like 10 o'clock in the morning, and then you get the other guys working. Come summer, we're anticipating having bylaw coverage from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We're going to stagger the 3 guys.
Any other questions of bylaw? Okay, moving along to sanitary, pages 32 and 33. Okay, and seeing none. Oh, Councillor Fraser. Page 30. Okay. We're almost there. All right, we'll move along. So Councillor Fraser, we're 34 and 35.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Mr. Dahan. The revenues, 306 695 60000, water rates. You just explain that revenue?
Your Worship, through the councillor. So basically, the water rates is the money we get from the county, and they get it obviously from the rates from your water bill that you pay Earth every month. Basically, that is the cost. Again, this is one of those zero-sum accounts, so that is the cost to basically make this whole program zero cost to the city. So we've got all of our expenditures minus the other revenues, and then the county pays the difference of what the other revenues don't cover.
Okay, any other questions on page 34 and 35 for water? Okay, seeing none, go along to page 36 and 37 and 38. So 36, 37, and 38. Any questions? Okay, seeing none before we move along, we'll move to parking. Pages 39 and 40 then. 39 and 40 for parking. Any questions? Councillor Fraser? Yes, no?
Okay. Thank you, Worship. Just a general question. At some point, you mentioned electronic ticketing. Is that in the equipment and the software required to do that? Is that in a reserve budget, or are you looking at that?
Your Worship, through the councillor. We're not sure yet because we're not sure which way we're going to go. Some of the systems that we've looked at wouldn't even need new equipment or very minor equipment. You can basically run it off your cell phone and along with a portable printer. And then the ticket machines would still be on site that we already have. But it's more for how people can pay their ticket. And then the system would be based on, there'd be a surcharge on the ticket. And that's how the supplier would get their fee. So there would be no, anyway, that's, like I said, we've just started looking at it. So, but that's kind of how some of the systems look.
Councillor Talbot.
Thank you, Acting Mayor through the Herald. I just have to comment because if you look at parking permits and parking violations, it's almost the exact same amount of revenue. So maybe if those people bought permits as opposed to getting tickets, it would be about the same. Now, I realize that's not just for lots, that's parking it all
Right.
over, but
It's the 2 hours also.
yeah, it's interesting how it's almost identical.
Yeah.
Any other questions of parking before we move along? Okay, seeing none, we will move along to transit and paratransit, pages 41 to 45 for those watching at home. So page 41, while we have it here in front of us. Any questions of council? Councillor Schattenberg?
To the Acting Mayor, Jerry Accioni, to Harold DeHaan, I guess I maybe hesitate asking this question, but it's something we've talked about as well. I noticed that the part-time wages is much higher than the full-time wages, but under part-time salaries, there's also pay in lieu of benefits, which I'm assuming a lot of that would be going to part-time drivers. In any sense of having more full-time drivers in the city of Woodstock? I believe the number was 6 full-time drivers and the rest being part-time.
Your Worship, through the councillor, that actually has been an ongoing discussion for a couple of years now, and we haven't really landed on an answer yet. Part of us does. There's some pros and cons to both, so we haven't really, but we do have a fair bit of part-time turnover.
Okay, no more questions on page 41 before we move along. Okay, pages 42 and 43. Any questions? I have more of a general question for you, actually, Harold. I read something earlier today about GO Train.
Yeah, the Stride Pass in the summer, which is discounted rates for students. Not free, but discounted. Somebody forwarded me an article today about free transit rides during snow events to encourage people to get out of their car or not use their car and use the bus instead.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually. I kind of like that. Councillor Fraser.
As long as you don't park the car in the street.
True.
Your Worship, Mr. Don. I always get a little confused with this, and this might be for our Treasury Department, but we have in revenues, we have the dedicated gas tax for transit at $4.54 coming in, right? And then over on, I should remember this, but I can't remember why, but over on page 43 on line 0709 77143 0724, you got a transfer min provision for gas tax reserve. And so we got basically the same amount going back out. I can never completely remember how that works.
Acting Mayor, through to Councillor Fraser. In fact, we're required when we receive our gas tax money, provincial gas tax money, to set it aside in a separate bank account. So part of the accounting process is we show it coming in, and then we show it going out.
This still applies to this account, right?
Any other questions for pages 42 and 43?
Not done
And
yet.
we'll finish off Harold here at page 44 and 45. Any other questions of transit? Or, of course, since Jeff is here, if he's willing to speak to any questions. Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Mr. DeHaan. You may have it in your presentation, and I might have just missed it. But what's the ridership like now with paratransit? Are we at being totally utilized or 75% utilized? I see we have some taxis back in service doing paratransit too.
Your Worship, through the councillor, I hope not. I don't think so, not that I'm aware of. At least not through city funds. We have two para buses that the city runs, and then we contract out with Voyager, and they have some para buses that run also. The way we do it is we have as many buses. We schedule as many buses on the road, on a per hour basis that we feel that we need in order to service the demand for that hour or that day. So it's kind of a we've been a few years into it now, so we've kind of got into a bit of a schedule, but we still want to adjust it more. What we're trying to strive for is an efficiency of 2.8 rides per hour per bus. That's kind of the goal.
So are we hitting it?
I have not checked recently. Sorry.
That's okay. We can catch up on that one later. And just to follow up on that, I take it then on line 0710 77 201 0393 purchase services, that would be the services purchased from Voyager?
Your Worship, through the councillor, that is for the Voyager for the buses as well as for the dispatch service. It used to be combined. Voyager for the bus providing the service, and then when we had a contract with Red Cross, and they did the dispatch service. Last year, or maybe it was just over a year ago now, I guess, Red Cross got out of that service. Voyager was second low when we had given the contract to Red Cross. So we went to Voyager and asked them to pick up the dispatch contract at the same time also. So they've got both contracts.
Councillor Schattenberg.
Harold, these budget lines are all about the sort of the current hours of maintaining the transit system. Any additions to base budget are in essence not listed here. So if the city buses were on the roads longer, the paratransit automatically would have to be on the buses on the streets longer too, especially say on a Thursday night, Friday night, or Sunday for church services, etc.
Your Worship, through the councillor, that is correct. Basically, AODA regulations require us to provide similar service on para as we do for conventional. So if we are running the conventional system to midnight, we have to have para buses available till midnight.
Could you in fact do the exact opposite and sort of say if the city buses are not running, say on a Sunday whatsoever in the daytime at all, the paratransit could run? No, just for the people who are paratransit eligible?
Your Worship, I think you could. I would think that would go against the whole philosophy of treating everyone equally, but yeah, you could.
Question on the services. What are the cost comparisons of the city-run paratransit buses versus Voyager? Is there a big cost savings or expense one way or the other?
Your Worship, through the councillor, we did look at it a couple years ago of contracting it out completely to Voyager. They are a little bit cheaper, but at the time it wasn't that big of a deal, and we kind of figured we wanted to at least keep our toes in the water. So we had the buses. So we may look at that again when our buses are old enough that they need to be replaced.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of council before Mr. Dohan has a seat? Yeah, Councillor Schattenberg.
I guess through the acting mayor, maybe the clarification from this has to come from our CIO, David Creary. The process of doing the budgets, therefore, would we be voting later on for additions to base budget separately from what's in our budget book?
Yes, acting mayor through to Councillor Schattenberg. The typical procedure for the approval of the budget on the March 21st meeting would be the council will be provided with a list of additions to base budget. The additions that are recommended by staff, the changes that have resulted from the 2 budget meetings, as well as any motions that have come from individual councillors. And on that council meeting, council will move as many of those motions from that list as they wish, and will approve the budget as amended by those motions at the end of that exercise. Mr. DeHaan has provided a few additions to budget in terms of transit service hour increases, whether it's evening service or Sunday service. They are included in your additions to base budget, but you'll note that there is a negative recommendation for moving forward with those this year. So while those are in the budget, they're there for council's information. You can certainly move those if you so wish, but staff have not recommended all of those to proceed for approval in 2019.
Thank you.
Any other questions at all? See, that wasn't so bad, was it?
Oh, no. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and the last item tonight, we have no one speaking for it, of course, because it is mayor and council budget. So we'll just go through pages. We are talking, of course, for those watching at home, pages 99 to 102 with some minor changes. Any questions on page 99 for council? Seeing none for page 99, I'll move along to pages 101 all the way through to 102. So again, pages 101, 100, 101, and 102. Any questions? Note a lot of. Any questions at all? Okay, that is the last item for budget discussions. If no more further questions, okay, seeing none, councillors are requested to forward their suggested amendments to council, the CAO, and the city clerk, and the Director of Administrative Services by March 15th, 2019. Amendments can, of course, be brought forward on council floor on March 21st as well. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Fraser, seconded by Councillor Schattenberg. All those in favor? Pass. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.